Sure, it looks good.
So do we want to just, do we want to ask all 11 questions? Gentlemen? I'm sorry.
I don't think we need to. That's a lot of questions.
All right,
It is a
we
lot.
are live.
You have the question.
I have
I
them,
don't have them.
I found them in the email thread. Yeah.
Are you ready for me to call the meeting to order
Um,
and then hand it over?
Can you share that with me?
yes, yes.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So, it's a little after 6. Gonna call the beginning part of our February 18th, 2026 meeting to order. And then, just, appoint, I guess I have to motion to appoint one of you to chair.
Okay.
I didn't think about that part.
She doesn't have more experience in this.
I have no idea.
May I? Well, all you have to do is just be in charge and then hand the mic back. Okay, so, just a quick motion to appoint Stevie to be chair for the mayor, interview process.
So.
Okay, all in favor, aye. All right.
Okay. Would you like to sit across or anywhere that's microphones?
Yeah,
You good here? You want to just do it at the
Or-
table?
whatever works.
Doesn't matter to me.
Do you
It's
care?
great to just sit.
I'm okay. I mean, this has been my seat for so long. Yeah. Cool.
Cool. So we do have a couple questions that we would like to ask, right? And I think we'll go through individually and just kind of do the couple that we chose.
Make sure you speak up.
I
I'll give those
apologize.
reminders again when the rest of the public comes to talk, but yeah, sorry to interrupt. but
Yeah. So we will be asking you some interview questions here, so I'm just gonna go through, I guess we'll just get to it. Okay.
Yes.
So Alex, I'm really excited. Thank you so much for being here. As mayor, how do you, will you stay informed, and involved with resident and community concerns beyond formal meetings?
Okay, so, oh, that's a great question, guys. Thank you. So I will continue to be as active and involved as I have always been, since moving here for college in 2003. I am online almost to a fault, admittedly. So I will continue to, keep tabs on all the murmurings and all the different Facebook groups, Instagram feeds, and any other social media things that come forth. I really look forward every single week to the letters to the editors section of Hudson Valley One. And I do also keep up like on Daily Freeman, which is our secondary paper. And just for funsies, I do like to read all the opinion sections of all the papers in the area. So if there's ever anything that you all like want to access that you can, let me know. I probably have a password somehow. Yeah, so I'll keep up in all those ways. And of course, as an active and or sometimes not as active member of different community organizations. I love being a part of UACT, which is Ulster Activists. I was actually one of the founding members of that group, and they're so active in their email chain. So if there's something happening and they don't know about it, it's probably not happening. And then of course, our university, like in the middle of our village, is not only just a great resource, but it's a whole ecosystem of a community in itself. And so that's where I do have like a couple lists actually on my Instagram that I do follow specifically and get alerts on to know when there's certain kinds of student organizations holding events that I might want to make an appearance at or offer to provide a resource at, like such as tabling with our Landlord Tenant Relations Council handbook. And to that end, I'll continue organizing events with community groups and campus groups as well. We have a couple coming up on the calendar that I can remember to announce.
Thanks.
Nice.
Oh, and like if people are just interested, because I know when you ask that question for like other kinds of jobs, you always wind up into like, where do you get your news from? So to that end, like I do have Empire Report as my homepage on my desktop, and laptop.
Thanks, Alex. Alan, Brenda?
Is there a list? Because I still can't open the,
Stevie can share it. I'll go in the meantime. Yeah, and I'll just share, thanks Stevie for welcoming Alex to the conversation. I wanted to also just share with the public that we had agreed to a process to then make a decision to appoint the mayor. And as everyone knows, Alex has been serving wonderfully as the mayor since Tim's election to supervisor. And we originally set the process because we anticipated having more than one candidate for mayor. And now we have Alex as our candidate. And so we were still looking forward to offering the public a chance to have Alex in a position where she answers some questions, just because it's a good way to inform the public about where you stand on things and what you bring to the role. And really also sets you up for what you might do next. So I was still excited about having an opportunity to ask you some questions and appreciate you going along with it. So I'll go ahead and ask, maybe the entry question, which is, why do you want to serve as the mayor of the Village of New Paltz?
Yeah, so I was, talking with staff earlier today, like they were like, you sure you want to do this? I'm like, I'm doing it. And that's just how I feel, it might not have been like my dream job and my plans, but it is right now my dream job to be in the moment and my plans for the moment. I think that upon reflection and like stepping into it, there's nobody else who can kind of carry the torch in the relay race that, Tim led us in for the past decade so well. As someone who had served as his assistant deputy clerk for a few years before running to be village trustee. And then, being right here, right alongside, Supervisor Tim, like for all these years. So to that end, I have so much in the filing cabinet of my brain, about projects that are still in process, or what the community vibe might have been about one issue or the other, from all these perspectives, like from within Village Hall over the years, that I think is a huge asset, even with our things like our rental registry, it's a great unique law that was passed, many, many years ago, to protect tenants and keep people safe and also accountable. But there's been so many different iterations of how it's managed and kept up. And I have this, bird's eye view of what was, I think, the most accessible version of that rental registry. And I feel like I'm the most equipped person to kind of lead our team here at Village Hall to, get that to the place I think it should be. So it is the most accessible and useful tool for all. And that's just, one of a million examples from one day on the job alone. And I'm on the board, for this year and the next either way. So if we need someone to step up, I realize it has to be me. So yeah.
Thanks.
So I got the format, but not the question.
Also, not for nothing, what better way to, not to say, not to like push consolidation too hard, but if the voters were to decide that we consolidate, what better way to end the history of the Village of New Paltz with the first ever female mayor and the first ever openly LGBTQIA plus mayor? So let's go.
Amen. Thanks for sharing that. Alan, I have a suggestion. We had created standard questions. Well, Stevie can share with you. We had created standard questions so that their multiple candidates could have an equitable interview experience. But we can diverge a little bit if that feels better, because we're talking to Alex as a singular person just to share her views with the public. And so,
Well, I'll just ask a question then. I'll be spontaneous. So there will be an election in November for mayor, and we were hoping to get more than one candidate. So I don't know that the result would have been any different at the end of the day, but it's always great to have contested elections because it encourages dialogue and debate and how would you help to encourage other people to run for mayor in November?
Right, so I am planning on running for mayor, so I think that in alone might encourage some people to step up. Hey, why not? We know I've got my fans. But to that end, I literally was texting with, a Republican in the community, yesterday about like, why don't you run against me? Because it would just be a really fun way to like actually get the word out because people participate. So we saw, so I do politics when I'm not doing government, right? So we saw in 2018, the highest turnout in history in election districts 4 and 9 in particular, which are in the village. And primarily renter populations within the village. And I would say the turnout that year was influenced by having a 7-way primary leading up to that year. Because we had in the past other opportunities to flip that seat, that did wind up being the high impact, high turnout, thing that brought people to the polls with Antonio Delgado running, right? But I really think it was the lead up to it with 7 different candidates, all vying for attention and like representing a whole spectrum of values and principles. So when, the best way to promote democracy is like participating in it and going all in the participation. So definitely encourage anyone who wants to run against me. It could be more like running with me because I will crush you. But yeah, and to that end, I'm really looking forward to, I'm interviewing with Forward Party and Working Families Party tomorrow, meeting with the Democratic Committee next week. And, just I think with all the different groups I have an opportunity to talk with in a different way as not somebody, looking to promote some other candidate, but promoting myself as a candidate. That in itself might encourage, more folks to get involved. And I, leading up to this whole process, had done so much outreach, to different, I had said in past meetings, to different community groups. I was at Kwanzaa, basically, like, I have an announcement, who would like to be mayor, to different campus groups, and all of that, trying to get folks to get involved. And so since then, I've been doing the same for the 5th trustee position. And I'm really excited because I am pretty much ready with someone that I would like to share with you all later on, and hopefully appoint at our next meeting, who's a lifelong New Paltzian, and who I think would also just bring so much more diversity to our table, because to have a Black Jewish woman born and raised in New Paltz serve at the table who works in the service industry, that'd be so cool. So definitely pulling people in all the ways I possibly can.
Thank you.
I have another question after you guys are take your turn.
Good, Steve.
Okay. So Alex, if you are appointed, what are your top 3 priorities?
Well, number one, continuance of government, keep it as smooth as possible. I think I've been doing a good job of that so far. Sometimes I text him 100 times an hour. And yeah, sorry about that, but also thank you, for being a partner in that way. And continuing to build my relationship with, our staff that I've had over these years, and, basically keeping everything afloat. And I'm excited to present the budget at our next meeting and all that. So continuance of government without skipping a beat, number 1 priority. Next priority would be, like, kind of tying up some loose ends on some long-term projects. And so one of those being more so like public works for the people, right? So we've had the skate park project, done all the legwork behind it. Now it's just a matter of there's like 2 outstanding recreation fees we gotta collect on before those places can get their certificates of occupancy. The money's there. It's time to make, the moves on some next steps with a request for proposals, and, really see that project through on, to fruition. So I'd say just tying up loose ends with hanging projects with that focus on public works for the people, as I say it. And then 3rd priority, we have this huge issue right now. Like consolidation, and we have this responsibility to actually see through processes that we started. So I guess maybe that ties into my 2nd priority, is tying up loose ends. But we have this huge project, this huge question that has come up, every few years throughout the history of New Paltz, as far as I can tell. And I think it should be a priority for anyone at this table to just make sure that we present to the community the best information possible to make the best decision possible in a referendum and put the question to bed once and for all. That being said, just like as an elected, I'm trying to be agnostic on the issue of consolidation. But yeah, tying up loose ends is a big thing. And then, so I guess yeah, that's under the tying up loose ends category. So then 3rd, I would be remiss if I didn't mention housing. We actually have increased from 73% of the population being renters when I got elected in 2019. Now we're up to 80% of the population being renters. And a large majority of that population continues to be what they call rent burdened, where it's, I am, where it's I can either pay my rent or I can keep my phone on, and that's the reality for a large majority actually of the village population. And so continuing to work with the Landlord Tenant Relations Council and as, our Housing Smart coordinator, to do everything I can to make sure we are more resilient as a community when it comes to making sure everyone has a home, and then hopefully everyone has a home that they can afford. And so a big part of that also is, boostering tenants' rights however possible, and education too, so yeah, I would say housing justice for all, third priority. Yeah, so priority 1, public works for the people, or continuance of government. Priority 2 is, tying up loose ends and public works for the people, and priority 3 is housing justice for all. There we go.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. What values or perspectives do you think that, you would lead with as mayor?
Cool. I was hoping you guys would ask that, which is why I have I signed this forward party pledge that is, it just like speaks to exactly what I was hoping I would get the chance to share out here. So using data to drive collaborative and effective solutions, regardless of the ideological source. Cannot stress that enough. You know, when I first got elected, it was in a nonpartisan village election. Like, we didn't used to have, you know, any party lines when we were electing our mayors and our village trustees. Having moved the village elections to the regular cycle has made them more accessible. However, it has made it so, like, you know, the ideological part is there. It's always looming over it. It's like, is this a democratic value or not? Or, you know, and that's basically it in the village, right? And I do want to stress like that principle of coming at things more from an independent, you know, nonpartisan perspective is like a big principle of mine. And always data driven and collaborative, caucusing, referring to the experts, you know, being unafraid to say, I don't know, let me circle back. You know, and definitely just always putting like people over parties and ideological buckets and perspectives.
So one of the things I've always been amazed at in New Paltz is the kind of vitality and diversity of the small businesses. You know, on Main Street, you've got Manny's, you've got various restaurants, you know, some have been around for a long time. You know, you've got bookstores, Inquiring Minds, the new one, and Water Street Market. There's a lot of great, you know, really wonderful independent businesses. And I think that having a strong, vital, diverse community is great for business. Aside from those things, how do you plan to support the business community?
Definitely. So I actually I have a spreadsheet for that. I feel like I say that all the time, since I'm in this job, but I've been putting together, a mayor mobile office hours plan. This is something I've gotten to have senators and congresspeople do, and now I'm like, oh wait, I'm like the person in that seat right now, let me do it. So I've met with a bunch of our local businesses, and we'll keep meeting with all of them to, you know, just meet them and be like, so what's going on, you know, and maybe talk about parking if they want to. I'll listen, yeah, but also to plan a series of like meet your mayor, you know, like office hours all over the community. When I first had got elected as trustee, I did something similar, you know, to the best of my ability while, you know, working a day job and, you know, just being a part-time trustee, where I hosted paperwork parties at night at different like bars and pubs and taverns, where I would just bring kind of like a folder of stuff from the clerk's office, like the affordable housing paperwork and stuff, and just information that, you know, people can't get if they are at work all the time during the daytime. You know, come have a drink with me, share your problems. What do you need help with? I've got everything the clerk's office has right here. So I stopped doing that during COVID a bit, you know, and then it became like people just kind of knew how to find me. So I'm really excited about this chance to like revitalize that times 1000, you know, in all the different spaces too, you know, so it won't just be Cuts and Magic and Shorties, you know, we'll go for like the Pigs and Cuddies vibe too, and maybe the bookstores and so on and so forth.
Wonderful.
We have 7 more minutes because we'd agreed it's to be a 30-minute discussion. Does that still work for everybody?
Yeah.
Stevie, you want to go ahead and ask another question?
Alex, I think you've given some really great answers so far. My last question for you is just, what is your vision if appointed mayor, for New Paltz
Yeah,
in the future? I apologize.
yeah, well, I mean, like the future is now, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm going into tonight just honestly with Revolution New Paltz on my mind, the America 250 project locally. And just because it's bringing me back to some of the things that made me choose New Paltz to be my forever home when I was a student. I was like, nah, I'm good, you know, to my folks, like, you can visit me. And like, that was just seeing coalitions that sometimes are surprising and delightful, and sometimes eyebrow lifting kinds of ways, like, huh, interesting. Just seeing people all coming together over things that are kind of wonky, to be honest, you know? And that's my vision, is to like continue that tradition of New Paltz. You know, I really do believe, and this is what I had said when I was trying to get somebody else to be mayor, that we deserve leadership that reflects, you know, the community that we live in. And, like, and I realize I am that person, and I am excited to, you know, bring that vision to fruition. So, you know, let's bring back those pocket gardens. We're working on getting the free food fridge up and running again. You know, having more of these collaborative spaces is, you know, the New Paltz I have always known and loved. And, you know, I'm already fighting, every single day to, make that the place that we are, you know, so it's a maintaining and a growing of that spirit of place, I would say, is my vision.
Wonderful. Thank you.
In your top three priorities question, you mentioned the idea of, moving these projects forward that have loose ends, and you also referred to the idea of, the consolidation question of the town and village being, fitting into that bucket. And, but you also shared that you're agnostic on the question. So I think maybe, and everyone might be interested in hearing a little bit more about how you'll approach that process that we've committed to. And yes, to get it to the referendum that, I think the voters deserve to decide on, but how you'll approach that, and whether, as the leader of the village, you can really be sort of neutral about something that important.
Well, I would argue that I think the leader, of the village at a moment of questioning the future of the village should be as neutral as humanly possible. They should be looking at it as, this is paperwork, these are check boxes, these are processes, we are following them, you know? And I know that I can be that person. You know, as a voter, I look forward to the plan that we put out there and how it's messaged out. And as, you know, as a typical Village of New Paltz person, that is more on the misfit spectrum of the community, you know, I don't like voting for things just because people say, hey, let me knock on your door, vote for this. Tell me why, show me why. Let me make my own mind up. Show me all the information, put it all on the table, put your cards out, and then let me make my decision. And I know that a lot of our community feels the same way, you know? So I think it's actually really important to have a leader at this table who is agnostic on the issue and who can just communicate out clearly, these are the steps that have been taken, these are the next steps, here's where you can find this data, and so on and so forth. And here's how you vote, and really getting that vote out. You know, I think that, yeah, and I think I really can handle like keeping my own feelings out of it, you know, because it is like something that should be, you know, from the Department of State perspective, just like more process oriented, and here's all the information. And, you know, I will enjoy doing that. Yeah.
Thanks.
And I guess also to that end, you know, just thinking about, okay, so if we do consolidate, like what better time to really just clean up any standard processes and flows, you know, and all of that. And what better time to, you know, make sure there aren't loose ends, because in any transition, you know, with the best of intentions and the best of people doing the handing of the baton, things get lost in the cracks. You know, even the ordering of our 25-mile-per-hour signs, you know, both Tim and I forgot to do that, make sure that was done in time, you know. There's no big list in the sky of things that have to get done, you know, but I think being somebody who has been here for this long, I do know what those loose ends might look like and be able to like help tie them up and close them up and have some closure, like, so that there can be a continuance of the village if that's what the voters decide, or a seamless, transition to whatever the consolidation plan winds up being, if that's what the voters decide.
Thanks. Oh, we have time for one more quick question.
Well, I just
If I'm the timekeeper.
Maybe,
that's fine.
maybe a statement. I think it's a little unfortunate that there isn't an election right now. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's the process. We don't have time for it. But it's kind of unfortunate that, 3 people or 4 people are deciding who's gonna be the mayor rather than having the public vote on it. But it's an interim thing. The vote will happen in November. And I think in the meantime, we're really lucky to have you.
Thanks. Yeah, and it's to that end, it's like a really weird situation too, because even if an appointment doesn't happen, I have all the powers, duties, and stresses, of the mayor. The only thing I cannot do without a formal appointment is fill the 5th seat so that we can, be actually serving the community as expected. That's the only difference. Yeah, but hey, November comes faster than you would guess,
Yeah.
Great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex.
Anything else? Cool. I'm going to turn the mics off, but then just keep the thing running so I don't have to redo the setup, if that's cool. And I did email out to the press that I have press availability, so.
So, Alex, if we may, if you could, before you turn the mics off, can we make sure that we're clear on the next steps, which I think should be clear to the public? So it's my understanding that we've committed to having a public discussion, a public interview, let's call it, for the benefits of transparency and information sharing. And then that it was within our right to request an executive session if we were to discuss any aspect of the appointment decision that might be confidential or personal about the person. So I wanted to, is Will with us?
No, but,
Okay.
I can contact him if needed.
I think it's okay. So I wanted to just, Stevie, you're chairing this portion of the meeting, but I just thought it was important to kind
Thank
of
you.
ask this. You're welcome. One, ask you, Stevie, and Chair, whether you have the desire to call an executive session for any type of discussion around the appointment, or whether either of you or I would like to move toward a vote on the appointment, because it's ultimately needs to be a unanimous decision from the 3 of us.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Correct. Yeah, that's, I don't want to call an executive session. And I would like to call a vote. If you guys are comfortable.
I'll second that.
Okay. Why don't you, well, I'll say, but we'll leave a moment for discussion, but I would say, motion to, appoint Alex Wojcik as the mayor of New Paltz. And, with the request for an opportunity for quick points of comment.
Second.
Discussion?
I'm good.
Great. I just wanted to say in the discussion, thank you, Alex, for already stepping in and doing the role. I've already learned a lot from you, and I've felt like I've taken some opportunities to have conversations that have really helped me see the way you could perform in the role. And so while it might have been a different process to have other candidates, I think we're fortunate to have the continuity that you shared, and look forward to working with you.
Likewise.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And I'm abstaining.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm going to pause mics and we will be back at 7.
You could also do the
You're
village
welcome.
board business, Alex.
Oh, yeah. Should we just do the village board business? Yeah.
Totally.
Thank you.
The meeting was noticed. It's all on the up and up. You may as well.
Sweet. Okay. Sorry, press. I'm just kidding. Okay, yeah, it might get me a little confused because we aren't gonna be in the same order, but let's save the pledge and land acknowledgement for the joint part, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And then I would like to, motion to amend our consent agenda. So this is a village-only consent agenda to include, under the event parade building use street closure requests to approve the building use request by Indivisible New Paltz and UACT are requesting an insurance waiver and use of the firehouse on March 28th from 1 to 4 p.m. And would like to also add, there was already the Pride March request, but just wanted to add the park use request that, was the check was dropped off today to the village clerk for Sunday, June 7th in the park, which begins at noon and goes until 6. Motion to approve the village consent agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just marking my notes, that's done, sweet, and then, I would like to. Find the village agenda. Okay, and then I would like to. Approve, the village business agenda, and then we'll go through those parts. Not voting to actually approve them all, but
I
yeah.
know there were a couple things that were laid, just, yeah, those are the things, yeah.
Wait, what?
I know there were a couple things that were asked to be added, so those are the things, yeah. So yes, so moved.
Okay, cool. Yeah, those were the things. So yeah, awesome. So number one is, so I wanted to explain this a little bit, so I will make the motion and then in our discussion, we'll kind of explain what I learned more about these pumps. So, I move, to approve the, request, for the emergency replacement of the VDF for pump number 1 at our Mountain Rest pump station. This is for $18,275. 50% is due upon approval, 50% due upon completion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Awesome. So I had explained back in January what VDF is. It's variable frequency drive. When it's failing, that's an emergency. This is for pump number 1. The one we had previously replaced was pump number 4. So yeah, that's basically it. So, yeah.
Can I ask a question just about how this works? If there were an expense of this sort that were truly an emergency, like needed to happen when it broke, is there a mechanism by which those things could move forward without a village board, trustee discussion, trustee vote, or?
Sometimes things can be done after the fact if needed, so to get to the nuts and bolts of your question, don't worry, everyone will be drinking water no matter what,
It's
Yeah.
more a general question
Yeah.
about, like, if something like this were truly an emergency, is there an approval and is there a ability to move it forward and then a post-approval? It sounds like that's possible.
Yeah, there is. So yeah, all in favor? Aye. I move our resolution for bills and claims.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then if we have any planning board reports?
Sure. There were a few items on the planning board, meeting most recently, 137 North Chestnut. This has a little bit of substance to it, because they have come back and asked the planning board to approve the conversion of a certain number of square footage that would have been retail, commercial, or professional space into 2 additional residential units, moving them from 51 to, I think, 53 residential units in the building. So that means 2 things. One, there's more residential units being approved for that project. But secondly, it's sort of another instance where a developer in the NDR has asked for an exception to what was the zoning, the code, to have commercial and retail on the ground floor and residential above it, except for, I think, accessible units. And so I think it's 2 things. I think one, it's an indication that maybe There are sort of economic questions about whether professional retail space is likely to be rentable in all of the professional space on those ground floors is likely to be rentable in terms of the demand for tenants in those spaces. And maybe the opposite of it is that it's also an economic indicator of the fact that there's a belief that there's still more need for housing, even with the number of apartments being built. So I don't know if that ever means we'd have to revisit that code to question whether it was a good idea to initially require all of the ground floor to be commercial retail. Because it seems as though it's possible that we might have more of that than we need coming online. And there's still a belief that more housing would be more important.
I guess that's a good flag for as we go through that whole code review project.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. And then the only other one is that the 147, 149 North Chestnut asked for an extension on their project. They've been approved. They had gotten a short-term extension. They asked for another in order to begin the project. And then lastly, there was the joint planning board and historic pres commission meeting regarding the historic Huguenot Street proposed project. And it's my understanding that there were lots of changes made. Many of them were well received, although I don't want to paraphrase or put words in anyone else's mouth. But that just generally reporting that it was a lengthy meeting that really went through lots of details and lots of rationale and just kind of engaged there wasn't a huge crowd, but did engage the crowd and the two boards in a meaningful discussion about what they're proposing and why. And it seemed like it made progress.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I was really happy about that joint approach. Thank you. Did we have anything for ZBA?
Didn't meet this month.
Yeah, and like we just saw each other too, so yeah. Okay, cool. So that's it for the village business agenda, not adjourning because we'll be right back after these messages. Sorry. Ari, I'm just gonna turn the mic off so we can, all hang out for 15-20 minutes before the town joins us for the joint meeting. Cool.
Sounds good.
And we're back. I'm gonna call this meeting back to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and Steve, you can do the land acknowledgement.
The Village of New Paltz humbly acknowledges that we are here on the traditional lands of the Munsee, Esopus, and Lenape people. The Indian Removal Act of 1830 forced the people to relocate to inhospitable territory far from the bountiful valley and mountains we inhabit today. The village further acknowledges that much of the physical structure of our village and town was built by enslaved Africans who labored as the property of their owners until 1827 on this very land. We acknowledge and honor the contributions, resilience, and accomplishments of the BIPOC community, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, who have overcome historic injustice to inform our past and inspire our future. The Village of New Paltz encourages everyone to learn more about the contributions and sacrifices made by the Indigenous people and enslaved Africans by visiting these sites. If you have resources that you believe should be included here, please contact us. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So, just wanted to catch the public up. We, already went through all the village only agendas. So now I would like to address the joint business agenda, and add a few items to it. So I would like to add, this request from CIT, the Community Improvement Team, to approve $2,000 from each municipality. We'll get to that when we get to that topic, but for brackets. And then I would also like to add a topic on annexation. So motion to approve the joint business agenda as amended. Okay, all in
No.
favor?
I know.
Oh,
No,
okay, we've got a bunch of ayes and then, oh, did we have a discussion or?
I don't know.
Or just a no?
Annexation tonight. I'm really not ready for that.
Yeah, we should push it down 30, 40 years.
That's why we're
So,
discussing it.
okay, so,
As a placeholder.
yeah.
We're not taking any action.
So when we get to that item, we can talk about it. We just approved to add those to the agenda. Kitty, no worries, no action is gonna be
Okay.
taken. Yeah. But Kitty's a no and the rest of us are ayes in approving the agenda. Town, do you want to wait until your section to approve your agendas? Is that how we should do it? Or do you want
We'll just do one section at a time.
one section at a time is cool? Okay, cool.
Okay, and
So-
I want to add a motion to approve a match to the village grant to do historic preservation.
So, wait, Kitty, we just approved the agenda, to be those items. I'm gonna share an announcement about that, bit of money and we're not, so that's not a business item.
Well, this would be for the town.
Oh, yeah, so your town agendas you haven't approved yet, so you're gonna do that next.
I thought we would.
Yeah, no, that's, sorry, to be clear, I just was saying like, how would we wanna do it? And the supervisor's down to just do it piece by piece, so we're just gonna move forward with, we just approved the joint agenda, now we're gonna go into announcements and then public comment and the joint business agenda, and then we'll hand it over to the town. So, quick announcements, I wanted to share that the annual Sojourner Truth Walk is super awesome. It's one of my favorite things. It's this Saturday, meet up at 11 a.m. at Dietz Stadium. If you have any questions about it, you all know how to reach me. I want to share an update on Revolutionary New Paltz. I learned today that there's this cool permission that I didn't know about before, that municipalities can allocate a little bit of funds for patriotic celebrations, and that's what it actually says in the law. And so I have commitment from our super awesome village treasurer to find that money to support our 250 events with $2,500. And so there might be some sort of action that the village board has to take at a future meeting, but just wanted to share this update so the organizers can move forward with the planning as they should. So I'll see them all at the next meeting. Next announcement, volunteers. There is plenty of room at every table where decisions are made here in the village. if you have any time, we would love your help. So we have all these commissions, councils and boards like planning board, zoning board of appeals, environmental policy board, affordable housing board, landlord tenant relations council, bike pedestrian committee, and public access committee, and even more of those. So if you have some time and interest in getting involved, we would love your help. Go check out the boards and commissions tab on the village website, or reach out to me for more info. I want to share a quick update from the county legislature. First of all, our county legislators, Bill and Megan, could not make it tonight. I know Megan is at the State of the County address, and that's why. But Megan did let me know the committees that she's been assigned to. And suggested I share those out real quick. So she is vice chair for the legislature and chair for the Economic Development, Planning, Arts, Ag, and Education Committee. She's on the Housing and Transportation Committee. She's legislative liaison to the Ulster County Economic Development Alliance, legislative liaison for Cornell Cooperative Extension, and legislative representative for the Reimagine SUNY Ulster Group. I wanted to share that last night, I made this quick comment that I think, we should just make sure the public here at home is aware of. At the Ulster County Legislature meeting, they had passed basically two resolutions, number 6 and 37 of 2026, that significantly impact our community. So the first was about the reappointment of the IDA, and the other was about the approval of the inequitable sales tax agreement. So basically I shared on the record with the county legislature that both these cause injustice and harm to not only New Paltz, but also to all who enjoy our gem of a Mountain University municipality, including even tourists. Basically, I said, imagine being a brand new mayor and like asking which nightmare scenario will hurt my neighbors the least. We're not going to raise any taxes, don't worry. But I threatened them with that up the legislature because that option is not a good one. So I shared that 80% of the village rent our homes, and most of us are severely cost burdened by that. And that the village actually endures some of the highest poverty rates in our region. And basically, this is because New Paltz continues to subsidize the rest of the county thanks to the inequitable sales tax agreements. We have, like, for example, the list can go on. We have the highest DPW overtime rates in the area. Why? Because somebody has to clean up after the tourists who spend money on our main street, money that we never see. And so the sales tax distribution formula causes these significant inequities among municipalities. It does not reflect the realities of community needs. It has zip to do with contributions to county sales tax generation. I suggested that they look at the map by population. Then I let them know that the affordability crisis is worsened in New Paltz because we also subsidize the development of market rate housing that none of us can afford. And this is because they continue to rubber stamp the IDA and all that it does. Their recent decisions that relate to market rate housing here are unconstitutional and unjust. That got some eyebrow raises, but no actions. And I let them know that they have an obligation to be thoughtful about who they appoint to the IDA and the decisions that agency makes. So unfortunately, they voted for both those resolutions unanimously. And that's all the announcements from me. Anyone else at the board tables? Cool. Oh yeah, free food every Tuesday right here in the garage bay, 3 to 6 p.m. Nobody goes hungry. Okay, so I want to open up to public comment. Just a reminder, keep it under 3 minutes. Make sure you address the boards. If you can come up and make sure this microphone picks you up. Usually there's a chair here, it's not here, so just come close. And feel free to, if everybody before you said something very similar, you can kind of just second them. So there was a sign-in sheet. And so I'll go through the people who signed in on the list first, and then folks who did not sign in on the list, and then we'll move to anyone online. So, yeah. Thank you. Okay, cool. So, Joseph M. Thanks.
Hello again. Saw you on January 28th from the Historic Preservation Commission. I wanted to thank you for your time and particularly thank Alex for dedicating village funds to our program and initiative. I also wanted to make a note that the grant we applied for you to revise your minutes, because the grant in your minutes said $75,000. It's actually $7,500.
Oh, yeah.
So that's an important consideration. Also, I think the resolution in the minutes stated pretty clearly that the board would, the village and town boards would sort of agree on some resolution or some path forward. And that would be an agenda item for this meeting. It was removed from the agenda. And no one was informed from the HPC. I rescheduled a flight to visit my mother in Ohio who has cancer, just to come to this meeting. So I was a little frustrated about that. So I think moving forward, there should just be better communication, and things shouldn't be struck from the agenda unless, and they should be, unless they're communicated or it's worth striking, even if it was going to be a three-second conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next is Paul Brown.
Thank you. Thank you for putting the chair. Good evening. My name is Paul Brown. I live in New Paltz. Following the suggestion of the village board, I've begun to review in detail, the Village of New Paltz proposed dissolution plan, which is on the village or accessible through the village website. And that's been proposed as a study document to inform the creation of a consolidation agreement that I know you'll all be working on for the next several months. There's over 11,300 registered voters currently that reside in the town and village. And I'm not sure many of them will have time to study that particular 123-page document. I also appreciate that you've already begun to focus on community outreach to address that issue. With regard to that outreach, I sincerely hope that any community outreach intended to educate voters will not simply be a regurgitation of the information that my own study of that document has so far revealed. Sadly, many of the statements, tables, and charts raise more questions than they answer. Questions that will require further scrutiny by our elected officials, and in some cases, further research, examination, and analysis by people with specific expertise, such as forensic accounting and land use planning. For this public comment, to keep it brief, I'm only going to focus on the statements I've read related to the fiscal impact, which appears on page 10 through 12 of the study document. On page 10, the study document states, village property taxpayers are projected to experience a reduction in their combined village and town property taxes. Table 2 shows that decrease to be at least 11.3%. We learn on page 12 that taxpayers outside the village of New Paltz are projected to experience an approximate 2% increase in their tax rate resulting from dissolution. However, the most recent previous study showed that the increase to taxpayers outside the village could be as much as 12%. The voters in our community will need answers to questions that will help us all to understand a great deal more about the fiscal impact of consolidation that what is in that study document as it's proposed. For starters, those questions include, already on page 2, and it doesn't go all the way down to the bottom. They include what expenses and revenues from the village and town were entered into the fiscal model, as they refer to it, that the LaBerge Group used to create the table shown on page 10 through 12. Now is the time for the LaBerge Consulting Group, or whoever's got the data, release the files, to show their work as our teachers in school require. What specific analytical methodologies and algorithms were used to crunch the numbers that were entered into the fiscal model? Will those numbers be audited by a trusted accounting firm? What underlying assumptions were made by the LaBerge Group that supported the fiscal model they used? Finally, most important, what has changed since the last time a consultant was hired to assess the impact of consolidation and projected a possible 12% increase in taxes for property owners living outside the village. Regarding tonight's agenda, I note there's an item for a joint resolution to designate primary contacts for consolidation discussions. I hope your deliberations tonight will provide answers to the questions such as, how is this in the public interest? Communication is important. The two websites don't align. There's very valuable information on the town website. I hope it stays there. Sometimes in public governments, you find stuff that's posted, removed. But the link to the study document is valuable, but it's on the website of the village, but you have to then click and you go to a Google Docs. So I could see where some type of coordination is needed, and I just wanted to say that I hope it's all in the public interest in that kind of way. Will the primary contacts work together in conjunction with both boards or independently, primarily with their own boards? Will the development of the consolidation agreement that you're working on tonight be on, and the agreement and all those kinds of discussions be always at joint meetings like this third Wednesday? Or do we have to be, if we do, as our new mayor, congratulations, I'm sorry, I prepared copies for all of you, this acting mayor.
No worries,
I kinda
thank
knew
you.
it might be wrong, but I'll correct it verbally. Where will the project website be hosted? The good news is that many months ahead are ahead before the November 3rd election. It doesn't have to be a rush. I think there is ample time to do all the work that all of you, the elected officials, our community are engaged in. You'll have ample time to conduct your own studies or ask and answer your own questions, and you'll be doing that in public, and we will be watching. And you'll help our citizenry get unbiased answers to the questions that they raise. Madam Mayor, I was happy to hear your comments. It all begins with your own fact-based deliberations and evidence-based decision-making. I trust that will take place. I'm encouraged about that. Thank you for your service to our community.
Thanks, Paul. Next we have Bridget and then followed by another Alexandria. I'll try to queue it up two at a time.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Bridget Bolognese. I've been attended New Paltz for a little over a year now, and I work with an organization called For the Many. I'd like to start by thanking Acting Mayor Alex Burgett for tirelessly fighting for tenants' rights and helping us pass a good cause eviction. Which leads to my point of why I'm speaking to you today, and that is because, as many of you know, there's a housing emergency in New Paltz. Last year, my friends and I searched for housing for 8 long months. And after countless house tours, I'm confident in saying that the tenants in New Paltz, much like many other New Yorkers, are being robbed via rent for the absolute bare minimum. The amount of landlords asking nearly $1,000, if not more, for a room in a house that is falling apart is absurd, and the prices are only going up, not because these living conditions are being improved, but simply because landlords can. And this is why I'm here to call on the village board to please pass a memorializing resolution supporting the REST Act, so that rent prices don't continue to rise, and to please vote to make Alex Burgett mayor because she's willing to fight for us as tenants.
Thanks,
you for your time.
Bridget. Okay, Alexandria, followed by Catherine.
Hi, my name is Alexandria and I live on Mohawk Hall, in the SUNY, campus. I call you to pass a resolution. The resolution in support of the REST Act which would reaffirm and expand our state's rent stabilization laws to make it easier to adapt to the policy, cover more tenants under the law, and give the necessary tools to address the housing crisis. Local governments have a critical role to play in advocating for this needed state law. Currently, I have a friend who is working 2 jobs just to afford rent, which shouldn't happen, especially as a college student. As a student who goes to SUNY New Paltz, I've always wanted to try off-campus housing, but if the REST Act doesn't pass at the state level, I won't be able to afford living off campus in my senior year. So please pass a resolution supporting the REST Act.
Thanks, Alexandria. Catherine, followed by Sam.
Hi, my name is Catherine Rameau. I live in New Paltz, where I'm a student at SUNY New Paltz University. I'm a member of the organization For the Many. Just wanted to talk about the rest of it for a second. Even though I'm not originally from the Hudson Valley, I'm from New York City, which is well known for its lack of affordable housing. I'm lucky enough that my parents do own property in Brooklyn, but I do have several friends who've had to relocate to more affordable areas such as Long Island or New Jersey. One of my closest friends since middle school relocated to East Orange, New Jersey, while still attending public school in Brooklyn. So this friend had to wake up before the sun rose to take a bus to a train into the city and then another train from 42nd Street into Brooklyn. This commute took 2 hours on a good day. This is a contrast to their commute when they lived in Brooklyn, which was only around 30 minutes by bus. My friend had lived in Brooklyn their entire life, born and raised, but because of the insane cost of living, their family was forced out. And the worst part is the story isn't at all uncommon. It happened to many of my other friends, my aunt, my godmother, my god sister, my cousin. This also reflects the experiences of people living in the Hudson Valley, overpriced rent, unstable housing, high cost of living, and it's going to keep happening. So a majority of people in New Paltz are renters, and this act would ensure that the people who live in this community are not forced out of their homes and their communities. And to close, I'd like to acknowledge the hard work of Acting Mayor Alex Wojcik and urge you to pass a memorializing resolution supporting the Rest Act and vote Alex Wojcik as mayor.
Thanks, Catherine. Next is Sam, followed by Frank.
Good evening. My name is Sam and I'm a second year student studying at SUNY New Paltz. I currently live on campus and a large reason for that is because of how difficult it is to rent in the village of New Paltz. I've heard about how high the rent is from many of my friends, and they've also told me about their even more concerning experiences with the landlords in New Paltz. One of my friends was having difficulty with their water heater, and it took the landlord an excessively long time to repair it, which left them with cold water for many days. Rent stabilization would ensure that tenants can organize when they're requesting repairs from their landlords. However, even if our village did have rent stabilization through the state's current Emergency Tenant Protection Act, this would not cover many of the housing options in New Paltz, especially for college students, as they have fewer than 6 units. This is why I'm calling on you to pass the resolution in support of the Rest Act, which would expand our state's rent stabilization laws to include buildings with fewer than 6 units. This act would also allow municipalities across New York to become rent stabilized without costly vacancy studies and give them the necessary tools to address the housing crisis. Advocating for legislation like the Rest Act at the local level is crucial for passing statewide laws. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Frank, followed by Stana.
I put myself on the list in error, actually.
Okay, sorry. Stana, followed by Joe.
My name is Stana Weisberg and I live in the village of New Paltz. I'm gonna say a couple things. One, I'd like to fifth the Rest Act resolution because I think that would be awesome. I'm happy to serve on any committee working on consolidation. I served on the steering committee while I was a trustee of the village, so I have knowledge that can continue to be utilized. So please let me know if I'm wanted or needed. And what I'm really here for is to encourage the village to appoint Alex Wojcik as mayor. I had the pleasure and privilege of working alongside her as a trustee of the village for 4.5 years. I've never met anyone more dedicated to doing everything within their power to help our community, particularly those among us with the least, which we all should do when we're serving. Alex has the knowledge and experience to serve as our mayor. Sorry. Should I?
No,
Okay.
yes, ignore me. Sorry, I should not text
Just
public commenters.
It's up for everyone too.
They disappointed me.
Alex was appointed mayor 45 minutes ago.
Okay, I wasn't here for that, so I didn't
Okay,
know.
No
just
one was
just so
here.
you know.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna finish reading what I was gonna read anyway. Alex has the knowledge and experience to serve as our mayor. Why do I say this? She's the most qualified person in town that I can think of. As you know, she's worked for the New York State Senate, among other organizations and individuals in government. She has 10 years of experience working at Village Hall. She's been elected twice to the village board and has been serving as acting mayor since the previous mayor vacated the seat on January 1st. She's been working tirelessly on the 26-27 fiscal year village budget and has the knowledge and experience to champion it. She understands how things work. She does not need to learn the job as most everyone else in the village would. This really seems like a no-brainer to me. Are there those in our community who disagree with Alex's activism? Sure, but that's not a good enough reason not to appoint her as mayor. She understands her role as mayor and will not do things to jeopardize the village. And she's so busy with the work that she has no time for activism anyway. Alex's integrity is unwavering. In these scary times, we need leaders who stand up for what's right, regardless of the consequences. When she agreed not to apply for this appointment, she meant it. She was going through the death of her father as well as numerous other things and really wasn't interested. But things have changed and we're fortunate that they have, and that she has decided to serve our village in this capacity. So I implore you to please do what is best for New Paltz and its citizens and appoint Alex Wojcik to the village of New Paltz, as the village of New Paltz's first openly LGBTQIA+ woman mayor. And thank you so much for doing so.
Thanks, Donna. Okay, we've got Joe and then Essie and then Ben.
Joe Lana, town of New Paltz. So Alex and Tim and board members, with the consolidation vote coming up, that excites me, and there'll be lots of back and forth on numbers. But I think the consolidation represents a paradigm change for New Paltz. And the question is, how will we take advantage of it? I hope it's to create a pointed vision. Pointed would be a little more specific about the things that we want to do: efficiency, problem solving, and opportunities. Last board meeting, we talked about the consolidation of the people who are out in Clearwater to the village hall. Personally, I think we should exit Clearwater and take it down. It's energy inefficient. It consumes the most electricity of all of our buildings, other than the water treatment facility. So we should exit Clearwater and bring them here. Now, I hope the building's not listening, but this is a little bit of a Frankenstein monster. But I think we can make it usable. But we should commit to decarbonizing. Now is the time to do it. Climate change doesn't care if we do it or not. We'll just get whatever we get if we don't take action. So we should decarbonize the building. Now is the right time when we do the consolidation. So please consider that seriously. The technology has evolved. The elimination of the oil would not be that difficult. There are other things that we could do that would add to the vision. So consolidating DPW on Clearwater, that leaves a building that we won't use. I would suggest it's a block building. Take it down, create a parking lot, which would allow us to take some cars off of Main Street. Also, not all of them, some. I know we want to have some cars on Main Street, but there are pinch points that are dangerous. The parking lot that we put up should be solar panel covered with portals. That would make this building then fossil free and net zero. And it's probably enough solar that it would also cover some of the sewer treatment treatment plant as well. So think about those kinds of problem solvings and opportunities. There are other things that we'll come upon through the consolidation, but that's really what I believe the consolidation should be all about. What are the new things that we can do to change or support the character of our town and village? Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Next we have Essie and then Ben and then people who didn't write their names.
In the interest of time, I don't need to come up. I second what these really brave young people have said and what Sana had said. I am appreciative to both of these boards. I have served the town board for 4 years, and so I understand what you all have to do. Thank you for doing it. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you very much for appointing Alex as mayor. I think it was the absolute right choice. Someone that we need, boots on the ground, doing the right thing, brilliant, brave. Thank you for doing so. I'm going to concede my time to Anthony Dandridge.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So no one heard any of that at home, or the people clerking the meeting especially. But Essie just said wonderful things and then,
I actually did, Alex. I heard her.
Oh, you did? Okay, cool.
Yeah, worked out.
Sweet. Amazing, thank you. That's why Ariana's the best. Yeah, Ben, did you want to make a comment and then we'll go to folks who aren't on the list?
Also,
If you want to make a comment, you have to make it here so it's heard by folks who are not here and so I can listen to it later
yes,
when I'm not nervous, yeah.
yes. In the interest of time, I'll shorten what I was going to say, which of course was in support of Alex and in support of rent control and tenant protections. The large majority of the town, including myself, are renters. And as not a part of the landed gentry, we are the most vulnerable to the sometimes capricious whims of landlords who sometimes enjoy wanting their power or paying not enough attention to their properties. I'm fortunate enough to live in a well-managed place, but I wasn't always, and a lot of people are not. So without spending any more of everyone's precious time, please do the right thing and put in the robust tenant protections and well done appointing our new mayor, who we're all very proud of and we are very excited to support. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Okay, anyone who didn't sign up, come on up. If you want, okay, yeah. It's the people's chair.
People's chair, peace family, my name is Anthony Daniels, I don't need to know you to love you, and I'd like to say first, congratulations to Mayor Alexandra Wojcik. Congratulations to the town board, and also congratulations to our community. I did not know that this was gonna be a lot of people are gonna be here to celebrate Alex, right, and to support Alex. It was very nice to see, and since I went through the time to make the statement, I'm gonna say my statement, all right, if you don't mind. My name is Anthony Daniels, I'm a faculty member in the second oldest Black Study Department on the planet right here at SUNY New Paltz, and I am a New Paltz resident. I'm speaking to express my strong and unequivocal appointment for Alexandra Wojcik, whose name is Joyful Warrior, to be appointed mayor of the village of New Paltz. Alex brings a rare and powerful combination of institutional knowledge, lived experience, and proven leadership that uniquely qualifies her for this role at this moment. With over 10 years of experience working directly at the Village Hall, Alex understands not only the vision of the local governance, but also the mechanics, how policy becomes practice, how budgets are built, and how decisions made in meetings affect residents' daily lives. Her leadership record speaks for itself. Alex has been elected twice to the village board and has already been serving as acting mayor since January 1st, providing stability and continuity during a critical transition. She is already deeply engaged in the 2026-2027 village budget, doing substantive work that the next mayor will be expected to champion. Appointing Alex ensures that the village does not lose momentum or institutional memory at a pivotal time. Equally important, Alex represents the lived realities of the majority of village residents as a tenant. She reflects the experiences of over 70% of New Paltz residents who rent their homes. Her leadership is grounded not in abstraction, but in daily accountability to the policies that shape housing, affordability, and community well-being. Alex also leads with presence and accountability. Alex consistently shows up to community events, public gatherings, and moments that matter to residents. Alex is politically visible from Albany to Kingston, from Poughkeepsie to New York City. Alex is accessible on a daily basis all throughout New Paltz and engaged in a plethora of issues relevant to the well-being of our community. Alex embodies what responsive local leadership should look like. Alex's appointment would also mark a historic and meaningful step forward for the village. She is the first woman, and the first openly LGBTQIA+ person, to serve as mayor for New Paltz. This representation is not symbolic alone. It informs how power is exercised, whose voices are centered, and how equity is operationalized in governance. Finally, Alex has consistently demonstrated that she does not merely speak about equity and justice, she acts. Her record shows a clear commitment to dismantling white supremacy, advancing anti-racist practices, and leading with integrity and courage. These values These predispositions, attitudes, and preferences are essential to the future of New Paltz and to the trust between village and its residents. At this juncture, the village deserves leadership that is experienced, prepared, inclusive, and already doing the work. Alice embodies all of these qualities. I respectfully urge, but congratulate the board as appointing her mayor to the village of New Paltz. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment that anyone wants to make? And then I don't think there was anyone online. Okay, cool. Thanks, everyone.
I just wanted to announce again that there is now a vacancy on the village.
Yeah, and I have someone to fill that vacancy, but I have to figure out the rules around all of that, but, you know, I'm an amazing community member ready to step forward, Jasmine Towers, so we will figure out what motions have to be made. I wasn't prepared to do that because I didn't realize the timeline was changing, yeah. All right, so, we made it through public comment, there was one that was submitted by our, union, CSEA, but that's, you know, also linked in the, agenda and minutes. So, let's move to our business agenda. So first item, we had our procurement policy to come up with one united one. I want to say I didn't get to do my homework on this, which, you know, yeah, but we should still be discussing it while we move forward on creating one united procurement policy. I don't know if there's a town.
I think William did a bunch of work.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I did a whole, Alex, I shared that document and that has not changed significantly.
Okay.
So, he asked me to put together, a resolution to do that. I found that very difficult because the procurement policy that I was working from had listed all the people who were responsible and it had different price points for the different types of purchases. And the question remains whether we should make those consistently the same level. And I thought that was a village and a town separate discussion.
Right, yeah.
So I do have that resolution, which I can share with everyone to consider. I put both the town and the village, that little grid in the middle, I put both of them in there. So we can either strike one out or leave it as is.
Okay.
And the other thing that I've done is I've accommodated all of the pieces that Joe and the Climate Smart group had put together and have already shared with both groups.
And we're already passed by the village, yeah.
And in the conversations with Joe, we've integrated that much more deeply into the document. So
Cool.
The documentation piece is separate. The best value, so we can include environmental considerations. And from Joe's comments about the village hall, I think this procurement policy is a perfect timing because it doesn't insist that you do make a non-fossil fuel decision, but it does insist that you actually look at the alternatives and put them side by side and compare them. And so I think it's a good time for us to be thinking about what is out there, what are the alternatives, and making that a procedural part of our policy. What I've also done is added at the end to be consistent the other way, which was.
So, yeah, I guess.
The village had a section on equal opportunity employer, which the town did not. So I've also added that equal opportunity appendix at the end so that we can have that within our town.
So let's like revisit this at our next meeting. So it's one doc that we've all gotten a chance to look at and whatnot, you know, if that's cool. That was a good update on the town end, and made me feel better, you know, reminder on the village end, we already, you know, passed like the, you know, amendments per the Climate Smart Task Force. And basically we're working on coming up just with a united thing. So yeah, that'd be great to work on in advance of, you know, next meeting, for sure. So I guess I'll look back in my email thread. Anything else for now on this? I don't think.
So
My understanding of like working on something like the procurement policy would be to work on the procurement policy.
Yeah.
And not necessarily create a resolution that speaks to working on the procurement.
Yeah, I
policy.
don't think there's a resolution needed, at all, and yeah, I mean, it's just something that we pass, municipalities pass these things as a part of their reorganization agendas, and then you can go back and just with a motion, adopt a new policy, so,
So in that case, just look at this one document.
yeah, cool, and I'll look back to find the digital version of it and see, yeah, so to be continued for our next meeting. But yeah, no resolution needed. Our second item was the ICLEI membership renewal. So is this something we split,
We're each paying.
the full 1,200?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So do we each do a separate a separate motion on this, or did we have to do some more back work on this?
Can't we just pass a joint resolution right now saying we each commit to paying our half?
Yeah, so it's, but the total cost is 1,200, right?
No.
Oh. What? 2,400?
I believe, I mean, Joe,
I think it's 12.
Yeah, I thought it was 1,200. I would,
What do we get for this membership?
yeah, so I would like to just have this be on our next agenda, so I can like go back through that and have more information. We used to be part of this a long time ago. And this is what like Gardeners, Climate Smart group is on, and most of the others, and it's like just kind of one of those tools for keeping up with the Climate Smart benchmarks, in addition to the state Climate Smart website portal. So we'll keep this on just to let our, environmental folks that we know that we're working on it, but we'll have more information for next time, I think would be better.
Climate Smart folks also get points for every application if we're members of the ICLEI.
Yeah, that part too. So let's make sure we kind of, Kitty, you and I work on like a memo for next time that kind of answers these questions, like how many points and all of that. I think that would be better.
I don't think we'll ever know how many points. I think it depends on which project they're going for.
Oh, true. Yeah. Because I meant to actually like sit down with you all in advance of tonight, but didn't get a chance to. So next time. Okay. Stay tuned for next time, guys. Consolidation. What? Oh, number 3, municipal center. Okay. Do we have anything on that? I didn't have.
Yeah, so the update is we submitted a grant to the Department of State to make some improvements to this building, primarily focused to start with ADA compliance and what were some of the
Life safety.
life safety was the phrase that was being used. So the idea is like the grant would attack those things to start with, and then I reached out to a couple of different firms that can perform different tests, like environmental tests within the building. Like I'm getting quotes from those firms like lead test, asbestos, a variety of other things. What were some of the other topics that we had?
Radon.
Radon.
There's like about 7 things that are typically tested for.
Right, so Alan suggested that's a really important place to start, get some of that data, so then we can, figure out what a plan would look like. So, part of the plan that we'd be looking to create, or part of the RFP that we'd be looking to create is to ask an architectural firm to help us figure out, what improvements, including some decarbonization improvements for the building. I don't know that we're gonna become a completely decarbonized building, but I think the goal would be to make significant improvements. So those are the updates as far as the municipal building.
Cool. Thanks. And I think it makes sense to kind of keep this as like a standing item as long as there's updates. Yeah.
Is there anything we have to vote on?
No.
We're not gonna vote on hiring Andre and LaBerge to do this?
There's no items related to the municipal center discussion item besides just whoever had updates to share them at the table. If you have something,
I saw something in our agenda.
There is later on, there's an.
Oh, for the.
For the consolidation.
But that's consolidation.
Yeah,
Not related to
separate.
the-
Building?
Not related to the building.
Okay.
We gotta see whether we receive a grant award.
Okay.
so sounds like you're ready to move on to the next item, consolidation. I'm excited about this first one, so I motion to approve the joint resolution, making Lauren and myself the primary contacts for consolidation discussions for the town and village boards. Do I have a second? Awesome, everybody seconded it, not everybody, but we had at least 2 on each side. Any discussion on this? All
I
right,
just want to say thanks for stepping up in this regard, Laura. I think it's it seems like a really great opportunity to share the mic throughout, your board in particular. And so I'm grateful for that. And Alex, thanks for your stepping up. I think your experience, gives you the real sort of reason to do that. I'm really looking forward to being a part of the process, but I feel like having your 2 folks running point is a big help.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to talk to the community and get
Yeah.
back from the community, and what Joe was saying earlier about, basically the comprehensive plan. Like, when I was on the planning board, that was something I got excited about, but couldn't do anything about.
Mhm.
So this seems like a way in, and, actually was a motivator for me to run, so.
cool. Yeah, I'm excited to be working with you on this. Okay, so all in favor? Oh, yeah. Any
Well,
more
we want to
discussion?
vote on that. I was just gonna provide more info. That's fine. Go vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Tim?
Yeah, I was just gonna share, in terms of the consolidation work, we can come back to it, it's fine.
Okay, well, then we had the, which we had added the proposed agreement with LaBerge to prepare the consolidation agreement. Did you have stuff to share on that, or?
Yes, so.
Okay.
I circulated before this meeting, basically a list of 13 topics that the Benjamin Center was gonna help us with. And the idea is that the Benjamin Center would be kind of like leading the community engagement piece of this process, everything that we've been speaking about in terms of getting the word out there. So that voters are empowered and educated, before they decide on whether or not to consolidate in November of 26. So the thinking is LaBerge would be the outfit to help with the nuts and bolts to make sure the general municipal law rules are followed, make sure that things are engaged correctly with the Board of Education. But
Election.
I'm sorry, yeah, BE, Board of Elections, absolutely. I accept your friendly amendment.
Okay, cool. I feel so bad because usually I'm so good at catching stuff right before meetings, but we had a lot going on earlier.
So what we did too, in the email that was circulated as a draft plan regarding a consolidation agreement is it's a list of 13 topics. And the thinking is that we can take a topic and distill it into a 1 to 2 page memo that would be, digestible, bullet points, could be circulated once and then regularly recirculated. So it's like the main questions, like what's the difference between a fire district and a fire protection? All the various topics that would be discussed as a board, and that we have discussed historically.
Cool.
So question, Alex. It sounds like there's, first of all, to the agreement. So the agreement came in a little late, but I did notice that it looks like it's an agreement that's based on pricing for different levels of professionals and service. But is there a cost range for the engagement, or is that something that we'll set our budget on and check against? How does that work?
Yeah, I think that the expectation is that the consultant's cost would be $200 an hour. And we have kind of outlined, things that we need them to do to start with you know, probably articulate the difference between the dissolution study that was performed in May of 2025 and compare that to the consolidation agreement that the community will vote on later this year. You know, what will be the significant differences between the two? So having, you know, that type of 1 to 2 page memo would be a good place to start.
But what I'm asking is typically if you engage consultants, it's often the case that they bill by the hour, but it's also the case sometimes that you have an estimate of the work.
Yeah, they did provide an estimate and
I
that's
didn't
in
see
this, that we updated that a little bit later. Lauren asked for some clarification, so that is an updated agreement.
What was it?
It's like 200 hours, divided by however many hours per month.
Okay.
But 200 hours over a 6 to 8 month period, I think was the target.
So we're in the range of $40,000.
Yeah, 30 to 40K.
Yeah.
That would be shared between the town and the village.
Thanks, that was my, and then the second point, the email you mentioned sounds like a really helpful approach of picking the major topics and building sort of like explanatory explainers around them and working through them that way. But I think that I think it would be valuable to have time, and maybe this is something Lauren and Alex will organize with us, to have time where we can make sure that we review that list and make sure it's, term I like to think about is like, it's mutually exclusive, so that like everything on there is in and of itself a thing, and then it's also exhaustive of all the issues, you know? So it just takes some time to do that well, has been my experience. So I'd like some time to do that, and I'd love to be able to discuss it in as early a meeting as we can.
That's why I called it draft outline. So the idea is that, you know, we can add or subtract to that list of 13, massage it, make it better, augment it, all the above.
Thanks.
It sounds good. So with the proposed agreement with LaBerge to prepare the consolidation agreement, should we be approving that tonight?
Yes, I also think what's important, because Kitty put some notes on it, which I think are addressed in the
In the new version?
No, not in the new version. They are addressed in that email that I circulated before the meeting. So I think the main thing that we're doing here is that we're using LaBerge for their technical expertise, like they know how to navigate general municipal law 17 and how to engage with the Board of Elections. They know how to put, you know, the exact nuts and bolts in the consolidation agreement. But I think where we're super lucky and unique is that we're gonna have the Benjamin Center help us with the community engagement piece. So I think our community, you know, some of the points that you were highlighting during your interview, when you were being interviewed for mayor, is just like the community does want to feel like they have the opportunity to ask questions and that they have the opportunity to feel heard, right? So I think that's where our two boards, our town board and our village board have, you know, I think it would be better received if the individual members and you guys as the point people to be the faces of the conversation as opposed to the consultant.
Yes,
We
agreed.
use the consultant for the, you know, making sure that the i's are dotted, but we use the elected officials and including, you know, town and village staff to help answer specific questions that are going to come from our community.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, and thanks for bringing up those points from like my mayor interview too, because, you know, I have so many good ideas with how Lauren and I can like really like be those faces and just be like, hey, we're popping up at this coffee shop, you know, to do our work and we're co-working, you know, if anyone wants to come by and ask us about consolidation, now's the time, you have an hour, you know, just to add to all the other engagement and stuff that we will be doing. Cool. So,
I received the draft, agreement, you know, whatever, like 12 o'clock today, and I spent quite a lot of time looking at it to try to flesh out. We actually have until November. We have to get the language for the resolution in August, but people aren't going to vote until November. So we have until November to really make this crystal clear. So, and the consolidation agreement that we received today, I'm not clear why LaBerge would be facilitating joint meetings when we have just appointed Lauren and Alex, which I think is, I'm not sure why we would pay LaBerge to come and facilitate these meetings when you really are gonna be the interface with the public. So that's just a question that I'm not sure.
So in the note that I circulated earlier, so because the contract was already vetted by an attorney last year, we used the exact same
Yeah.
language.
Well,
So
but
just
we rejected it in November of 2024. At this table, the town
Well,
village.
no, the village
No, we
did pass it.
It was all vetted by an attorney. So the thinking is like, that's the framework. We're not handcuffed to use every single thing that is articulated. It's like a broad umbrella. It's a list of options. We don't have to
Is this
do.
a contract?
I saw it as a menu.
Absolutely.
It's a contract, and this is a menu, like, that we as the as the client, you know, like, we can choose from the menu. That was how I saw it.
Well, this document is saying we're gonna sign on to what's in this document, and I think we need to refine it a little bit. I can hear people sighing, I'm sorry, but this is a big
Can I,
step for us.
I think that it's helpful to think about it as, we're not bound to have them do every single thing that's in there, but we can ask them to do those things. If we don't have it in the contract, it's beyond the scope of their work for us, and we can't ask them to do it. So we might be having meetings with Lauren and Alex facilitating, and then one of those meetings, it might seem helpful if they come in and facilitate, because it's in this contract, we can ask them to do it. If it's not in there, we can't. So it doesn't bind us, it doesn't require that we have them do each thing, it just gives us more options.
Yeah, and well, I want to say also on that point about coming and facilitating meetings, personally, I don't think that's an option I would want to use, but it might come up that we might need them. Like, I don't want to pay for them to travel if we don't need to. I'd rather Lauren and I kind of like come up with our plan and make sure any questions we have in advance of such like a session, you know, we can consult with them. That's
Okay.
just to make clear, that would be my preferred approach. But I would feel more comfortable having the option of having them to call in if possible, if something becomes a little too above my head.
Moving on to the public engagement part of this. Public engagement, support and coordination with the Benjamin Center. So I'm not sure how we envision that working. Are we paying LaBerge to work with the Benjamin Center and then bring those recommendations back to Lauren and you and then back to us? I think what I need is a flow chart of what.
I am working on that because I can tell, I think we would all do so much better if we had like an internal flow chart. So to that end, Kitty, I started making for myself, kind of like we had during COVID, our emergency response, where it was just this ongoing doc of notes of everything and like where this all fits together. So I'm working on that. It's not ready yet.
What I would like to see, thank you for that, is I want to go back to the committees that we had under the Fairweather study, because that was true community engagement. I was hoping to have them on our steering committee. That never happened, and I would like the steering committee videos and transcripts to be made public. I never understood why they were private, but there's a lot of discussion there that I think drills down into what we're doing here. So I really want to see that community engagement piece bring back. We had a finance committee, we had a structures committee, and all of that stuff is still in the town Fairweather website stuff. Those, we brought real financial and other expertise from the public, and that really informed the way that the future of that went. You know, we got some answers that kind of discouraged us from doing that. Maybe this time will be different, but we had real expertise from the public and they were truly engaged in that once a month for 2 years. We're trying to do this in a fairly accelerated schedule. So I would like to have your permission to invite some of the people who were on those original committees to join Benjamin and LaBerge, Lauren and you in those, early discussions. So we get a sense from the public about what it is they want to know.
I just have a question. Is this a committee from recent, this go around or the last go around?
The last go around.
So this is like a decade ago.
Yeah, this is a decade ago, and a lot of the, some of those people are even.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so some of them came tonight, you know, I'm hearing you, a bit, yeah, this is super OG stuff. Definitely, but also really helpful. I don't know, I feel like I've lived, through this debate so many times. It's partially why I'm so excited to kind of really put it to a vote, you know? And you know me, I'm all about like deferring to our elders and the wisdom of what's been done before.
Elder in particular.
Yes, this elder in particular. And I think we could find a way to share out what's been done previously. It doesn't just have to be, you know, Paul coming and sharing his knowledge on us. You know, we can definitely find a way to make sure to invite those folks to come, you know, maybe in one community meeting, we can have the, you know, the OGs come and share their stuff too as panelists or something.
The next Benjamin Center meeting, but we were gonna get one pagers tonight, we were gonna get them on the fire.
We're gonna have,
It's linked in the email I sent you.
Oh.
An early March.
yeah, I know Lauren and I like are going to sit down after this meeting with, the Benjamin Center to figure out some more next steps. So, yeah.
I suggest we do the flow chart, but also have a time frame of just key points, and that will give us something tangible to react to. And I think as key liaison, that should be something you work together on.
Yeah.
I can also share, like, to respond to some of Paul's question. He was asking for audited financials.
Yeah.
So all of the financials that were included in the dissolution study were from audited financials. And I think what's really interesting about consolidating the town and the village, there's not anything creative going on. This is really boring, an overlap of this on top of that.
Yeah.
And there's nothing aggressive, unique, creative, interesting, salacious at all about the consolidation. It's basically like, here are your expenses, here are your revenues, make a sandwich. You know, there's like one assumption about ending up with a single financial person. You know, currently we have Jean as the town comptroller, Nancy as the village treasurer. You know, in the future, there will be one person in that seat. And I know that Nancy in particular is excited about the idea of eventually being released from this work. And it makes complete sense that you would end up with a single financial person performing, you know, that role as the head, but there's really nothing particularly interesting or difficult about any of the overlapping here. I think, you know, mammals really struggle with change. This is different. This is new. This is boring. So I encourage, you know, it's like we can go back and ask Kathleen, who is the person with like a ridiculous amount of wisdom and experience as a financial person who works for the LaBerge Group, who put together this financial analysis, and we can ask her for all of her spreadsheets and give, you know, have her do even a presentation to let anyone ask any questions at all. But I sat through, you know, so much of this for months and months and months. It's not exciting, fun. I recommend Netflix if that's what you're looking for.
So a lot of what you're talking about is available on those steering committee videos and transcripts. Kathleen does go through those numbers. What we don't see and what I've requested in this agreement is an analysis of why the LaBerge Pauling it's the only consolidation they've done, and it failed. Both the town and the village voted against it. Let's find out why.
I can explain why.
No,
It's
I don't
so-
want you to.
It's so
Tim?
simple because it was
No,
a
that is not the
citizen.
reason, because I have
It
friends
was-
who live in Poland.
Okay.
Not because it was a citizen initiated petition.
Policy
Okay.
of,
Okay.
not talking to each other.
We didn't get to that yet. That's we're demonstrating the problem and then we'll get
It
to
was-
that.
It was a-
What I was saying, which is that I would like LaBerge to provide an analysis of that there. I would like LaBerge to provide us an analysis of how the services and costs have impacted towns that have recently absorbed villages. There's never been a consolidation, but there have been lots of dissolutions. And I would like to find out what the fiscal and service impacts on towns that have recently absorbed villages have been. You know that Orangetown, just to the south of us, just absorbed the village of South Nyack. Orangetown is a huge town, South Nyack is a small village, but at least we'll get some idea. It was like 4 or 5 years ago. What does it look like now? How easy was it to create hybrid zoning, to create one planning board? That's the kind of studying I would like to see from the consultants who did that. And then, to Paul's point, a flow chart explaining, I don't want to see tables and graphs and all that. I just want to see a flow chart of why it is that property taxes for town outside of village residents don't go down as much as village residents. Just explain that to me, just show me with arrows, like, well, revenue.
Is that rhetorical or you don't know?
Pardon?
Is that rhetorical or you don't know?
You know what, there are 15,000 people in our community.
I'm just asking you, do you?
I don't know.
Okay.
And when I asked you last week, you said something about revenue, but you didn't explain expenses. So I would like to see the numbers, like this much revenue goes from the village into the town, this much goes back. Just show us.
It strikes
why.
me that this is a lot of what the work of the Benjamin Center is gonna be.
Yes,
It's
but-
specifically about creating digestible, comprehensible documents and presentations to
Yeah.
answer these questions. So I think that that's already pretty covered in the
Oh,
plan.
gosh, I
Because-
think unless we say what we want, they're working in the dark. I want to understand, I want to see visually why taxes go down further for village residents in town.
And that's an excellent thing to have on the list of what we need to focus on, what answers people in our community want, what questions they want answered, and that's definitely gonna be chief among them. And the Benjamin Center, I think, is gonna be instrumental in getting that information into the public.
And we should, yeah, exactly. And we should, definitely all workshop, the list of 13 that Tim came up with. Like, I don't know why he chose my softball number, but, it could be a list of 14,
Or 12.
or 12,
And just if it helps, Kitty, my background is entirely in communications and has been for decades. And I do a lot of data visualization and help people understand complex visual their data in simple ways. So if the data is there, I can certainly help in communications that are consumer friendly. That's my background. And if I can help in that, that would be, because I think there's a big part of this that is communication. It's the data and the largest experience is almost second to none. So I think getting the data, explaining it to people is going to be one of the hardest parts of this.
I think explaining it is
Yeah.
where it needs to work. So this agreement,
Yeah, and and then I just want to make sure, Kitty, your point about just, I guess the historic wins and failures of other communities, that is like something I actually wanted to start a podcast on, just because I'm like a dork, about this stuff, but we can figure out a way to, maybe not pay, for a consultant to tell us why other communities failed, but I think we can figure out ways to get some of those histories. I myself have been doing research and speaking with old timers in Rosendale and in Marlboro, just because I want to learn about these two communities that had vibrant villages that are so vibrant that like when you go to Rosendale, like Main Street, it feels like it could be a village. Well, it's because it once was.
Right.
And then Marlboro, the former village of Marlboro, is still so distinctly a part of their community that they spell it differently than the township they're in, you know, and it's not even a census designated place. It's just, you know, a hamlet, which is, anything can be a hamlet, you know?
Well, we can do a lot of that research ourselves. The village of
Yeah.
Tannersville just voted not to dissolve, right? They're right up there. The village of Lake George just voted not to dissolve. We can read all about that. And we can learn from those mayors about why they think it failed. And let's not repeat those mistakes. We can learn from them what it was that residents felt, this doesn't work for me.
And
I
maybe
like
this is, you know, a little fact finding that I think we could do, you know, like, and maybe this is something you can help me with too, like make that list. I'm taking notes right now, which mayors can I call, you know, and be like, why did this fail? And I'll report back, you know?
So in section B of this agreement, we did not fill in the numbers. I don't think before we vote on something, right, it's the client agrees to pay a retainer. That's not in here.
There's no retainer.
Oh, then we should just strike that.
But it's a zero.
Is that what that means? No retainer? Okay. Thank you. It's good to have a lawyer at the table because, I did not realize that. All expenses and, shall be invoiced at cost plus a 10% service fee for handling and administration. We said no to that the last time we met jointly, that we did not agree to paying a 10% service fee to pay a bill. So I would like to strike that.
Where is that, can you see, is that
Yeah,
in my
C, client shall reimburse LG for actual costs. And then the last, well, no, it's the last sentence, all expenses shall be invoiced at cost plus a 10% service fee.
So I am okay with keeping it as is because like I expressed earlier, I intend to not incur these expenses. I just like having this list there in case we do need to call them in.
In that case, let's take it out because.
But if it's not in there, then if something comes up and like the whole town is mean about it, you know what I mean? I'm like, we need like our consultants here. I would like to.
Is agreeing to pay them. What I'm saying is, let's not pay them to charge us to pay them.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think it's meant to be a charge to charge us to pay them. I think an administrative fee like that for a consulting firm is to pay for the entire operation that it requires to deliver that single service that the consultant themselves delivers. So
That,
it's,
you read that sentence, that
that's my experience.
a 10%.
For expenses though, if it's like,
I'm not arguing with the billing reimbursement. I'm just saying I don't want to pay a 10% service fee
Okay.
when we
So-
get the bill.
Maybe we should all vote to decide whether we're willing to pay that.
Okay.
I do think your take is like really correct though, Rich, because that was what my reading of it was and why I'm comfortable with it because I'm not planning on having them travel.
Well,
And if they do, they have a policy
Yeah, I
that
mean-
we are charged
I'm
that.
not objecting to paying for travel and all of the other things that are above there. If they have to come here. I'm
But
just saying when
it's
they
pretty
say-
normal to have the service fee if there's
And
that
that's
kind of
not on- That's not on the
expenses.
total bill, that's on.
That's just the
That's
travel.
just travel, so that's additional expenses, that would be like going to, you know, if they go get food, they're gonna have to put in a tip, so that's gonna help cover that.
If I may.
Yeah.
That's totally legit.
I just would like to make a suggestion that it is perfectly acceptable for a member of either of our boards to have an issue that they oppose in an agreement that we have the opportunity to vote on. I think it's really appropriate for you to voice that opposition. But if there's not consensus on the opposition, I think we should move forward with your voice as one who opposes that item. But that doesn't mean you're gonna try to convince the entire two boards to strike that item. I think we need to acknowledge your opposition to that item and
Well,
then just.
should I just make a motion asking for consensus on whether to strike that one line, and if it fails, that's that. It
Let's
stays
ask
there.
our chair.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, so,
She would have to motion and.
I have to-
second it. I don't-
yeah, I saw the motion to approve it. I just talking about it, actually. Yeah, should I do that?
No, if she wants to do it, she can motion it, and someone can second it, and
Okay,
then we can vote on
fair
it, so.
enough. If I don't get a second.
Oh,
it
okay.
stays in. So I make a motion that we strike the line, all expenses shall be invoiced at cost plus a 10% service fee, handling and administration. Do I get a second?
I'll second, because I'm a good sport.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, motion failed.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, cool. Actually, that was
Next question is,
good practice.
where are the funds for this $40,000 coming from each of our budgets?
We'll figure it out, I guess. Nancy's watching.
Probably from where all the funds come from, ultimately. That's
Well,
where.
that's our budget for this year. I don't believe the town budgeted $20,000 towards the study.
Yeah, I
We'll
have an
to do some
answer.
other ones.
Well, okay, then that's what we'll do.
What was contingency in the budget?
We always can figure it out. It's not ideal. I agree. It's not, it's not how you wanna live, life, but there's always money stashed away.
And I think that this is important. I think that it's important enough to prioritize it because it is about public participation. It's about dissemination of information. It's about creating a truly transparent process, and it's worth it. I think the resources too.
All right, we just have to find where the resources are coming from.
Yeah,
I just
agreed.
don't wanna, end up not being able to fund historic preservation or something. So let's be mindful.
I know, yeah, agreed. Somebody has to always be reminding us to be mindful, definitely. And that's why I do want to stress, I think, our point of contact resolution that we just passed and the pro bono support from the Benjamin Center are gonna make it so it doesn't incur additional costs. It does feel a little, like people keep pointing out the timeline is really fast and like yes and no, but on the yes part of that, that's why I would like to have this kind of support from these consultants in this way. Yeah,
Can I address a few of the comments we were just talking about?
sure.
So with the polling consolidation vote, that was not a board initiated vote. It was a citizen initiated vote. So the difference is you're required to do a bunch of things in really short timeframes. Additionally, in polling, there were fake social media accounts that no one knew where they came from, but there was a lot of drama about who were the citizens involved in those fake accounts. So like that kind of created a headwind for that vote. Tannersville and the town of Hunter, that was a dissolution vote. I spoke with electeds from those communities. Both the town supervisor and the mayor did not take a position. They were both hedging. I think if you have a community that's discussing reorg and the elected officials don't have an opinion and they're just like sitting on their hands, the community will get nervous and say, no, thank you. Additionally, it's really important to not fixate on consolidation versus dissolution. At the end of the day, it's a dissolution of the village. One of the boards goes away. You have one board as opposed to two boards that you're paying board salaries to. The primary difference between a consolidation vote and a dissolution vote is simply that the town-wide populace gets to participate. That's the difference, that if it's a village dissolution, only the village voters vote. If it's a consolidation, the town voters vote and the village voters vote. Each of them have to agree to move forward with the agreement, but the nuts and bolts of dissolution are the same.
Cool.
So one more question I had about the contract is if we could get the language that will be on the referendum, and it's basically a yes or no proposition, right? All of the stuff we're doing is not gonna be what people vote on. They're gonna look at the studies and decide, but the actual referendum language is going to be what? Shall the village dissolve? Shall?
And that's exactly why we're hiring.
Yeah, well, but
Why
I
we're
hadn't,
hiring the consultant.
I hadn't motioned to
Oh.
approve it, so technically, we're just
I feel like
talking.
we went off.
Yeah, we did, yeah, very good point. We did go off topic. I'm letting it roll so that we can demonstrate why our next agenda item that we worked on is so important. Yeah, so, you know, like, I don't know, lots of really good points are coming out just in general. I think this discussion is really good. But can we just go back to this agreement? Anything else on this? May okay, I'm gonna just motion that we approve this, agreement. Let me get the language again. Our agreement with L'Auberge to prepare the consolidation agreement.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I'm going to abstain because I.
Any abstentions? Kitty abstains. Cool. Okay, cool. And I took notes and I will go back and watch this too. And, you know, I think it'll help Lauren and I inform our next steps when we meet with Scott with Benjamin Center, and Katie is gonna help too, and it'll be fun. Okay, so that was also really good practice. Oh, sorry, Ariana, I did not mean to edit the agenda in front of me. So our next item is our joint village board and town board meeting rules of procedure, which would be just for our joint agendas. So I do want to make clear, you know, to the public, like our joint meetings, we have village only agenda, town only agenda, and joint agendas. So right now we're in the joint agenda, and this would be our rules of procedure for how we prepare and how we also act and whatnot at the table during our joint meetings. So yeah, did you have anything that you wanted to say before we kind of like, anything people wanted to add?
I just enjoyed working on it with you, and I'm happy that we did this, and I look forward to cleaner, effective meetings.
Yeah, you know, so it was basically based on our, you know, the one that the village board had, you know, worked on over different years, you know, and had gotten to like a really beautiful place, I think, that you know, former Deputy Mayor Katie Tobin and former Mayor Tim Rogers had done a lot of the work on the version that, you know, we had, then Lauren and I sat down and thought about for the joint meetings and whatnot. And I think there's an understanding, or we should just have an understanding that like there is like some flexibility, like it's not, this is not the New York State law, you know, like we're not changing any things that are dictated by law. This is just, you know, our like agreed upon community agreements for our boards when we are at this L-shaped table together and when we are preparing together, basically.
I mean, I thought it was helpful too for the town board because we didn't have something like this, so it was a wonderful template to work off of, and hopefully we'll adopt this for our board.
And I find it to be helpful, you know, when I first had gotten elected, back in the day, it was one of the village version was one of the documents I always had open, you know, on my laptop or phone. And when I had a print collection, it was in my binder. It still is in my binder, you know, just, it was a tool that when things would get heated, overwhelming, frustrating, whether it was between the board or, you know, with a topic that brought out members of the public who were being like a bit more aggressive or rude, or it was on a topic that made me feel emotional, you know, I had something to refer back to that I knew we had all agreed upon. And that there were different like exit ramps, you know, like the 2 meeting rule, you know, you can invoke that if you need to, and stuff like that. So I think this could help us, you know, and I do want to, you know, make sure Tim's, you know, concerns, not all agendas are like, and sometimes like tonight, sometimes we have to add things last minute because we won't be meeting together for a while, you know, but as long as, you know, we're not doing that with everything, you know, and there's a little bit of flexibility there. And, you know, as the presiding officer for tonight's meeting with the things that we added at the table, it kind of like let us go astray with it, right? And I think that's a way to be flexible with it. So yeah, if you all would be cool with it, I'd love to motion to,
I'd like.
oh yeah.
William, please.
I have just one question. This is very much about the meeting. I wondered if there was any procedures for post-meeting behavior. So when a vote has been voted on and either board has agreed on that vote, what are the responsibilities of the individual members to support the vote of the board rather than their own opinion after they've made a decision? Because we have seen behaviors where it's not just in the meeting, it's after the meeting where things happen. So
yeah, you know, and I'm glad you brought that up. You know, and this has come up so many times in my time in office and also just in my time paying attention to this community, you know, and in the Senate too. And I personally am of the opinion that state law says enough there, you know, and like we are all subject to like pretty stringent rules of ethics that we have local level like versions of, and you know, like you just don't do anything with your title after the fact if it's in disagreement with a vote. You know, what you do as an individual might cause bad blood, but like, we're not gonna infringe upon First Amendment rights,
I
you
guess
know?
it's just a principle in my head that we are still representing voters and people of our community. And disagreement beforehand is fantastic. It's exactly what we're all about. But once decisions have been made, I think there is a responsibility in terms of executing and making things efficient and making stuff happen. That if we don't all act in unison on that, it gets slowed down, if the process becomes complicated, those things come back and haunt us. And so I feel like there's a real responsibility that once a vote has been decided, that all of the people who sit on these boards have a responsibility to recognize the vote that has happened. And as a member of this board, they can still express a personal opinion, but if they're acting as a board member, they should be supportive of the decisions of the boards.
I think the community relations section addresses that a bit. The boards will be conscientious of the image created by the boards, by their behavior at the board table, listen actively and be responsive. I think that, I mean, sure that is during the meeting, but there was another part of it that is like everything you do kind of is, does reflect back on it. I personally feel that, you know, New York state laws and ethics policies do address that more than enough. Like you just don't use your title and, you know, position and flaunt that with anything that has nothing to do with something that we all voted on, you know, because I can think of other examples in the past, like had I decided to push the vote to set a public hearing for rent stabilization when we actually had a vacancy study that did show that we have, you know, the crisis that we all know we're living. And if I had rallied 2 other people at the table that time to vote to put that public hearing out there, that would have put Tim, who was the mayor at the time, in a really bad position. Like, and I wouldn't have wanted to have tied him to agree to that vote, you know, the terms of that vote, you know what I mean? Because because his input and his thoughts on that whole thing actually shaped the law that we are going to vote on a resolution support of tonight, you know, really important, insightful stuff. Granted, I did not push that vote because we worked well together and, you know, and there was other stuff at play. But like, I really could think of examples where I would want my colleague to feel free to explain why maybe they abstained or voted no or something like that. I don't want to limit that. You know, but I do think, to that point at the tables, I've been struggling with how to relay to the public who here is actually voting members, you know, and that is a point too. And I'm realizing I actually should be yielding time to you, you know, Deputy Supervisor, at these meetings. I didn't figure out how to address it. So, that just came up too, you know, so keep yielding time to a non-elected, non-voting member here, who we love and support and appreciate, but yeah. How do we fix this? Yeah, how do you?
I just want to say that I wholeheartedly support someone who does not agree with a vote to exercise their First Amendment right and say the board made a stupid decision. I think that was a terrible outcome. I'm all supportive of that. I think that's completely fine. But I just think what, you know, to the point you made about a board member using their title and then assertively trying to blow a situation up by like contacting officials in Albany and you know, making other accusations, like those are lines that should not be crossed.
Right, and that's addressed by the state law and ethics stuff, yeah, that's the kind of stuff that, you know, there's an entire agency called polling that deals with all the time, you know, there's an entire white collar prison full of former board members, you know, that have crossed those lines, you know, I mean, maybe not, people get away with crazy stuff these days, but like, that's addressed, you know, and that's why in my email about it, I had referenced Shelley Silver. I was like, who gets the throwback, you know, like, don't go that way. You know, like, maybe we could just all, you know, go back through, you know, all the rules that we're beholden to. I think they're referenced here, but I don't think we need, I think it's a good idea usually to not try to rewrite the state laws that we are beholden to. You know, and ethics things and stuff. I think those are covered already. We all like did our oaths of office and stuff.
Alex, can I share something?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, I'm like, keep going.
Thank you. You know, as I was reading these rules of procedure and reflecting on my brief time serving as trustee, you know, there's a rule of procedure that shares that the member once recognized it should not be interrupted. And I think that's really important for us as a board. And I've actually seen in my short time here interruptions in dialogue that I don't think are healthy for the way we function together. And what I've also seen in my short time, and I've seen this in lots of other settings where we're working together on complex topics, is that it's pretty quick at times that people move off topic and begin speaking about topics that aren't the item that we're currently commenting on or voting on in particular. And I think that there's some real inequity to when that happens at a board where the others at the board table have not prepared for that discussion. And that discussion begins happening and even begins happening among more than one member. And now it moves down the path of like some form of like, you know, isolated consensus, but has nothing to do with the members who had no idea we were going to talk about that thing today. And that's especially harmful to the ability for new people to participate. And so I want to both acknowledge that members should be not be interrupted in dialogue, and I feel uncomfortable with times when that's happened at our board. But I also want to yield to the power of the chairs of our meetings to please interrupt when necessary to say that's a really important topic. And it's you know, it's on the list of 13 that we're going to move through over the next many months, but we're not in a position to talk about this now, and no one else is prepared to have that conversation, and we should move forward with that continuing.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you there. That's, we tend to get off topic here. I think that's part of the problem with the board this size. And I'm also gonna agree with
And the free speech thing, free speech is absolute, we need to fight for that every day, and we can't. To pretend that, to put anything that to restrict someone's speech is just a horrible road to go down. I can't imagine like telling someone they can't talk that like move to Russia. It's just awful. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Can I highlight the section, in the general rules of procedure? So after the part about interruption, which I'm glad like both Rich and Alan, brought up. And then also brought up during the previous discussion, which was so good. There's the part about any member may call any other member to order, you know, like it takes, I know you guys are town, but it takes a village to make a village, you know? So I think that line right there is really important, you know, and we all need help. And Tim and I have done this together for too long, and I'm just gonna acknowledge that too. Like we could talk about this stuff forever, because this is what we've been doing together forever, you know? So you guys all need to help reel us in. I think like that part, like highlight that part and remember that part. Any member can call each other to order.
How does that work? Like without interrupting somebody, somebody's going on about something and they digress and they look at their emails and they whatever. How do you interrupt that process and bring it back to the topic at hand without interrupting somebody?
Right.
There's a gavel, there's a gavel in the closet.
There is a gavel over there. No, yeah, and this is where like Roberta's rules of order come in, because we're not doing Robert's rules. I think, you know, I always say wrong phrases, so I'm always like, point of information, point of order, you know, anything like that, or.
Yeah, it'd be nice if there was a phrase you could use. that
Yeah.
wasn't Directed at the person in a sort of, you know, rude way or sort of interrupting way, but it was just a sort of say, hey, you know, some phrase that everybody accepted was considered benign.
Lucky 13.
Yeah, right, no, wasn't there something in, one of those old books that you have to all read in high school where.
Pass the conch.
Oh, there you go, pass the conch, no. I think it was like just interruption, and like the students all yell like interruption, so we don't have to yell, but. I don't know.
To piggyback on that, I had a question about,
It's in the closet.
the section at the board table. That is, if a discussion has gone on too long, the boards will allow for limiting of debate to a set period of time that this requires a two-thirds vote. Similarly, how do we, if something is going on for too long, how do we respect the speaker and not interrupt, but also move that forward if it needs to happen?
So, yeah, the way I've seen that come up with a few times in the very long ago past, it's come up is, you know, like, hey, motion to, or like I move, which one is it? Sorry. Like I motion to limit debate. Can I get a second? You know, I think anyone can kind of just.
You know, I think if we can get this down, it'll really make things much more effective.
Yeah.
But also it'll force people to prepare and disseminate information. So Rich was saying before, beforehand, which again will bring the topics, you know, the things will just be discussed in a much more efficient and effective way.
Well, we're gonna get that.
Yeah.
I think if we had observed the 2-meeting rule, which I forgot about, but I'm very glad to see in here, earlier tonight, and I just needed more time.
Well, we didn't,
See, it's a, can't help ourselves. Anyway, the 2-meeting rule is very straight, and I think when we find ourselves getting bogged down, that might be the time to say, you know what, we need more time for this.
we didn't pass this yet. That's the thing.
But I think that's a.
So
really
next
important
time,
thing.
yeah.
Can I ask about how to enact a 2-meeting rule? Does it also pass by motion, or is it just anyone can invoke it?
Anyone can invoke it, and then everyone has to be like, okay, That's fine. We didn't say any sort of majority vote on it. The village version didn't really ever have that. Usually when I saw it, it was like back when I was clerking and people would say, I need the 2 meeting rule, and the rest of the board would either be like, okay, or if something actually had a deadline, would be like, shut up, you know?
I think the 2
Yeah.
it's a useful tool as a suggestion. I've also seen it regularly used. Like when someone doesn't want to move something, they just invoke the 2 meeting rule.
That's my concern, is not creating, I would love to, I am so grateful for all the work that Alice and Lauren did on this. I think it's so thorough and so thoughtful. And that was just one question that I had about, how to make sure that that doesn't, derail every meeting, especially as we're embarking on this joint process, that it still takes some finessing and is a larger board than we're used to. So I was curious if we could think of a way to put those mechanisms in there.
Should we have that also required by a 2/3 vote? I liked it worked okay casually, I think, in the past, but we are a bigger group. Here, let's just add
I
that.
think that's a good idea.
Keeps it from being arbitrary.
Yeah, where's the 2 meeting rule? Okay, here we go.
Originally, you're right.
I just added this requires a 2/3 vote at the end. Cool. Cool. And again, this is not the law. It's not the Constitution, which we all swore on or anything like that. This is just a guideline to help us, you know, when we need it. And anytime something does, one of these tools that we're adding to our toolbox might become something that's disruptive, we have to hold each other accountable, you know, and deal with it together. So, anything else on this?
I just wonder, is it now that we decide on what it is that we are going to do when we feel like something is going on to, we're just talking about it right now, so, and what, it'd be nice to have it for the next meeting.
We can just say call to order.
I think call to order is it.
Right.
So this says adopted February 2026, so.
Well, we're gonna adopt it tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I motion to adopt our joint town board, village board meeting rules of procedure for joint agendas only.
As amended.
As amended, yes. All in favor? Aye. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, now we'll be able to do things awesomely. Okay, I motion to approve our resolution memorializing our support of the New York State Rest Act, which so many folks came out in support of.
Second.
Okay, all in, discussion, all in favor? Aye. Yeah, okay, I motion to, pass our joint resolution memorializing support of the Invest in Our New York Act.
Second.
Any discussion?
I had pointed out a few errors in it, and you've been very responsive. I really appreciate that, but if you're gonna call the vote, I'm gonna have to abstain until those are corrected.
Sure, and
Tonight, that's
we'll follow up more on those, and I can get more information. I basically the backstory, so the public doesn't feel left out, from Kitty and I, real quick. I spent a day in Albany last week with a lot of our community, and, you know, our representatives spoke at a rally and provide testimony to the state legislature, urging them to pass this package of bills. And so I have so much more information, and I will get answers to the questions Kitty had that were just, you know, kind of deeper dives. I did my best to include in the resolution, like, links to the red line versions of the law, which kind of help show like, this is what was before, and this is what we're proposing. So, it's okay if you have to abstain. I'm gonna call the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
And Kitty abstained. Cool. Sweet. Okay, so next item is our request from our community improvement team to approve. So yeah, so I'm just gonna make the motion. I motion to approve $2,000 from the village. Do we have to do these separate or?
So,
Okay, so I approved, 2K from the village community improvement team, as a contribution, towards the total $16,000, for hardware for the banners and other flags. The rest of the money was raised from volunteers. If I can get a second from the village, I just wanted to add a point discussion wise. Oh,
well, Will just said it's also important that we highlight that the stuff is not used exclusively
Yes.
for hometown heroes.
that's what I was gonna
Okay,
say
cool.
too.
Yeah.
Stole
Then
my,
go ahead.
okay, yeah, well, I want a second, then I'd say it. Second, okay, and then exactly what Tim just said. I second that. But the point is, these are, brackets that are not going to be exclusively used for the Hometown Heroes Flag Project. They will be permanent, assets for our, community, that we've actually needed for a long time to be able to do things like Hometown Heroes and, like I was suggesting, to our Revolution 250 folks, I want to see Hometown Heroes in May. And then, Pride in the first part of June and Juneteenth in the second part of June. We just need someone to get those flags. And then, American flags in July and so on and so forth. So it's a permanent installation. That's why we are approving this, because it's not just for Hometown Heroes.
Let me also make a small point, which is, and I can speak to the folks that are organizing this directly. I may have gotten it wrong, but I think it was my understanding that in order to be one of those, put one of those veterans banners on it, that you had to pay to have your person represented. And I'm not sure that that's the best way to make those available to folks that might not have been able to pay. So it's kind of a pay to play to have that person recognized. So I'm wondering whether we couldn't, petition that there's a process for someone to have that fee waived and be able to have, and because I also understand that they're not all full. And so to have that fee waived and see if the way to complete it is maybe to not make it a required payment.
Yeah, so, that's usually, that's up to the, totally not related to municipal body, organizers of it. And I was like looking up to see if Ben Healy was still here, but he's not. I have a meeting with him on Friday. He's our American Legion point of contact, and has been liaising with all the different groups and stuff. So I can get an answer for us on that. It's my understanding there were some very generous folks who have made sure, anyone who wants one can get one, but I also don't know how that was shared out. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, all right, so all in favor in the village? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, yeah, nothing opposed. Town, pass it to you.
I move the same thing that Alex just said.
Second.
Any-
Second.
Any discussion? 2 seconds. Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Cool. And then we had added at the table, we had added in approving the agenda annexation as a topic, right? Okay.
Right, so we have a draft resolution to address, the possibility of annexing property, that was, under review by the village planning board. They approved seeker. So this is a 200 unit, approximately 600 bed complex that's contiguous with their village to the south of the university. And we have a resolution that would move in the direction of the property being annexed into the village so it can get municipal water. So that will be on our March agenda.
Cool.
Any
So,
questions or comments?
I don't see a resolution. When you said there, we have a resolution.
Yeah, you received the resolution in your inbox. It's not in this agenda.
it's for next time.
This was just an announcement to share with the community that a resolution has been composed and.
So I had a question about this, there seems to have been a contentious back and forth between village and town about annexing. And we're getting copious emails from one of the attorneys about the findings and
everything that's occurred that they're paying for. And I'm not sure what the right course of action is to move forward in terms of where we are, we're a new board, and we didn't make any of these decisions on this town board. I'm afraid to vote on anything without really having maybe like a historical review, because this goes back to 2021. And I don't know if some of this is just a moot point, because I forget what it's called, we were the interested party or the what is it called when, like, the village?
The village board was the lead agency.
Lead agency, thank you. So if the village board is the lead agency and decisions were made, that's.
The village board, not the village planning board, sorry.
Yeah.
So does the town now have any say over what happens?
Yeah, the town
Yeah.
has to agree whether or not to annex the property into the village so it can have municipal water, so the apartment complex can be constructed.
But that's the only thing on the table.
Annexation.
Okay, so the past of, if this was a benefit to the people, the pros and cons.
No, if anything, the town board didn't participate in the review. And the village planning, or the town planning board, which you were a member of, actually voted in favor of the village planning board being the agency.
Yeah, I wasn't on, that was your, that was 21. So. But that was, the findings came back that it was not a benefit to the people from the town attorney. Do we discuss that, or is that a moot point now, and we just move on and talk about annexation?
You read the document and you make your own decision.
So, but we don't talk about this as a group, we just all.
Well, there's no action on the village side whatsoever, any action as of now, until you all make your move on the resolution that Tim mentioned will be prepared for March. We're waiting on you guys to do that before we don't have any plays on this chessboard over here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So are we going to be talking about the item that is marked confidential?
What's the item that's marked confidential?
The thing that is confidential attorney-client communication, is that what we're gonna be talking about? We're gonna be talking
Just
about.
tell us, I'm not
Are
following.
we gonna be talking about the litigation, about the lawsuit that the village brought against the town?
Yeah, right. So the idea is that the appellate division was asked to weigh in on the village board saying, yes, let's annex, the town board saying, no, let's not. So there was a litigation where the appellate division was asked to function as a tiebreaker. So our board has the opportunity to say, well, let's just settle and move forward because annexation makes sense. So this apartment complex that's been vetted by the village planning board can move forward and be constructed. So we can collect recreation fees, add housing, have 15% affordable units included, provide those apartment complex access to municipal water and sewer, which is required if it's a property that's contiguous to the village.
So will the annexation and settlement be bundled together
Yes.
at the March meeting?
Yeah. We will have the opportunity as a board to vote to settle the litigation regarding the question of annexation.
This seems like we should be discussing this at the town only board meeting because it just has to do with the town.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
right.
no, there may be a function within the resolution that will make it so it's both a town and village board action. And that was the suggestion of the town attorney representing the town, Victoria Polidoro. Okay.
And that's for our next meeting, right?
Our next.
Yeah, we could either do it at either a joint meeting or we could do it individually at our next. individual.
But we're not.
We're not doing
Nothing
anything.
right now.
We're exercising the 2 meeting rule by discussing the topic as a placeholder so that we're prepared and warmed up and ready to take action or discuss further at the subsequent meeting.
I'm sorry that I didn't have the foresight to just have it written on the agenda in advance. And thanks to Tim for
Now we
saying
have,
it tonight. Yeah.
now we have a month to process and examine and
Ask
come to our own conclusions,
Yeah,
not me.
yeah.
But potentially you.
Potentially us. I was on Will has been so helpful as always, like walking me through it. And I was like every single step. So as soon as there's something that does involve us, I'm calling you guys.
I can add that Will has been incredibly unhelpful towards me because I'm very knee-jerk used to calling Will and he's like, Tim, can't talk to you, Tim, can't talk.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, thank you for making that point. That must suck. Yeah. Kidding.
The document that we're gonna be talking about is the settlement proposal.
It's a resolution, yeah.
But the settlement is essentially that the town withdraws its position. And annexation immediately subsequently occurs. And I think we should publish the thing, who wrote that decision? Because the town attorney said it was drafted by the plaintiff.
It was drafted by the plaintiff and then Victoria Polidoro, who's representing.
Who drafted it?
I think the developer's attorney, who's like who specializes in
Sure.
annexation within, his name's Michael Sternhouse.
Okay.
He specializes in annexation. He drafted the resolution that the attorney representing the town then marked up and then sent to.
So,
that's
once
what I.
again, I would like to request that the town have an executive client attorney's meeting with our attorney, Victoria Polidoro, before.
Absolutely.
Oh. So we can have a special meeting before then? When would you like to schedule that?
I don't want to schedule
So
a special meeting. We'll just discuss an executive session at our next meeting
With the attorney,
with the attorney, right?
And you also don't have to notice, sorry to interrupt, but when it's attorney-client privilege meetings, you can actually all get on a specific topic that you have that right if you all do it. You don't have to put a notice out saying that you are meeting with your attorney on a specific thing.
The public to have a look at this settlement before we talk about it. It's all marked attorney-client confidential in our emails. So it should be published on our agenda, right? Is there any reason we can't do that?
The resolution is not confidential, no. I don't think
But the
so.
settlement terms, those emails are.
Yeah, I'm fine, wallpapering it wherever we need to wallpaper it.
Okay.
Should we check with our attorney or something?
Yeah, they'll counsel us.
Okay.
So,
Counsel us.
cool, and you're all good? Okay, so we're done with do I motion to adjourn the joint?
Yeah, because you guys are done, right?
Yeah, I'm moving to adjourn the joint meeting, but we're not over yet, because you guys are going.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor?
I
All in favor, aye.
motion to approve the consent agenda.
Yes. Okay.
All in favor? First business agenda item is a request, for actually some liability insurance to be waived for an exhibitor at the community center. So this is customary in that the lawyers always give for liability insurance. My take on this is that we regularly have liability insurance, but attorneys always want to ask for it. So a best practice that I've gotten used to is you include it in agreements. And, larger entities will have insurance, they'll provide it. Smaller entities will not, then they technically ask for a waiver. So I'd like to go ahead and agree to that request for a waiver for this exhibition. Someone want to second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Authorized to approve the February 26th warrant in the amount of $2,491,767.06.
I'll second, but it would be great if you could, post a link to it, so we can look at it before we do that in the future.
Sure. I don't know why that wasn't there. Maybe because this is a village agenda. So that's an oversight that should have been done.
Sorry.
That's okay, we'll work it out. Next item is related to the seasonal workers at Memorial Pool Park. I'd like to move forward with this, rate schedule. Someone second it, all in favor?
Aye.
And fourth item is authorization to approve hiring Scott Harrington as a seasonal laborer starting April 5th at a rate of 25 an hour, not to exceed 180 hours. Go ahead.
What's
Or something, Sean seconded, and then a question from Lauren.
Just, his position, why it's separate, different than everybody else's.
Different rate?
Why is it different?
I don't know, it was just pulled out because it's.
So we don't know what the person's position is, they're just a laborer.
I guess they're just like a more senior
I can tell you,
person with more responsibility.
it's a person that's more professional than pool, does, will help with electronics, plumbing, pool. Actually, pool plumbing that specialized in, that's why.
That's, thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$25 an hour for a plumber, that sounds like.
It'll be great, like sometimes that's my toilet.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a deal and a half. Usually a zero on.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
And then fifth item is authorization to approve the revised legal agreement as discussed with Emily Svensson for Boardman Svenson's legal services for the town of New Paltz.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And
Like, Sam, did we add funding the historic preservation commission all the time? That's part of the agenda? Because I started to do it and then Alex said, we're in the joint agenda.
yeah, we can, let's add that as a final thing.
Okay, because Joe is still here. He's still here.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for reminding us. Okay, so the next item is that it costs $100 a year to be a member of the Ulster County Supervisors and Mayors Association. I move that we pay for that annual expense of $100.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then request authorization to use HO7 capital funds for engineering services. So this is where we used Rick Alfondre's firm to help us with some documentation that was included in the grant application that we submitted to the US regarding the 20-year history of this building.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And
No. This is only related to this building. We're still not looking at any other sites or buildings.
this was to pay for documentation that was included in the grant application that we submitted to the Department of State. They provided like some historical context, because we're trying to get grant assistance from New York State.
For this building.
Yes.
To become a new kind of municipal center
Yes,
without looking at any others.
that's correct.
No.
Cool. And, okay, so let's, before we do it exact, let's do, the HVC money. Someone wanted, William, you want to describe that?
Well, I think Joe described it, but.
Okay, well, tell me what we're voting on.
That we're gonna allocate, we're gonna match the, village allocation of $2,500 towards the resolution 250. Sponsored by the town historic preservation commission.
Okay,
So moved.
well, that, you did the motion. Someone want to second it?
I have a question. So is this to be reimbursed to the town as was pitched at our last meeting, or is this just free and clear to the APC for the 250 celebration?
My motion is just to contribute $2,500 towards the town's
What specifically are you talking?
Whereby the consultant will coordinate all of the activities.
Okay.
I can explain a little bit about the process, because I spoke to Jean about
Okay.
it today. The money goes in, it allows them to start working on this plan, which starts in May, so we're already behind the 8 ball on it. What, VPC and have been pulling together, and actually a number of other people have helped, applying for grants, looking for other sponsorships and partnerships. And that will all come in to help fund all of that. We've also got about, people say, 30,000 services to do things like website design and other things. So we put that money in there, and the money is coming in. If there is money left at the end, that money can, like all unused money, goes back. It's not a lending, that was the confusion that happened today. It just, there is more money at the end of the day that we haven't used, and we use the other funds first, preferentially, but we need that to get started because those other funds have not come in.
Right, and to clarify, it was not a loan, it was an advance on the grant that we were.
Right, thank you. But if we don't get it, we just got to be a bit careful with that language. Not what.
We don't want it to be a loan for.
No. So essentially, yes, the money goes in and there is a chance if we get all of the things we're hoping for, but we won't use all of that money. And then it, like all unused funds, goes back to where it came from.
So did someone who seconded it? Okay, all in favor? And then I wanted to add something to this agenda too, so.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to apologize to Joe that you had, it came off the agenda.
I know it was person's fault, you have a lot to, thank you, appreciate that. One quick thing, I have a friend who's on one of those posters, it's $200 from the VFW to get the printing of the poster and it stays up for 2 years. So that's how they work it.
Hometown Heroes?
Not the brackets, just so.
You're talking about Hometown Heroes?
Yes.
Okay.
So he.
But that's nothing to do with what we're talking about. Everything's not over.
Okay, it was over.
Two meeting rule, I want to, put on your, radar. So, I left the job at the Village of New Paltz on 12/31. And then you don't get health insurance until, February 1st. So the village paid for my health insurance at the cost of $1,555.63 for the month of January. So I'm going to ask the town to pay for my health insurance for the month of January. So you can decide on that at the next meeting.
So the village gets reimbursed for
Yeah.
it. So the town does not pay for health insurance. That's just starting better.
So basically, anytime you start any job, you have like a 30-day waiting period.
But it's a 12-month, you should have 12 months.
That's what I said. The response I got was that no, that there was no money for it, but it seems curious to me because I would think that the town would have budgeted 12 months worth of health insurance for the supervisor.
I remember it being a big issue with Susan Zimmer, and don't think the supervisor gets health insurance.
Well,
They do.
yeah, they do. They do. We're just talking about January.
Oh.
Yeah.
1 month.
Yeah, it's already coming out of, I'm already paying for it. It's coming out of my paycheck. Because you get every town employee after a certain date contributes 20% to the premium. So that I'm already paying for that. Starting Feb 1. But I'm just asking, yes, to be paid for health insurance. Because it's already enough of an economic sacrifice to do this work.
Well, it's for next meeting.
Okay.
Before next time.
Okay, I move that we go into executive session for the purpose of discussing hiring a particular person. We're gonna meet in the kitchen back here.
I can send it to her.
You want me to know it?
Yeah, sure. Speak for a second.
No.
Not gonna mute it. I'm over here. I don't know. Or I can. Yeah. It's bringing me back to my student meetings when people could see us talking, you and I. Stop talking about it, everyone.
Stop talking about it.
Okay, so I move to leave executive session and Lauren seconded my motion. I move that we hire Tyler White as a police officer at step 6. And the start date would be March 6th, 2026.
We get everything in there, Matt, okay, March 6th is start date, yeah, good, okay, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.